Welcome back to the Forge Pokemon League. Tonight, Tuesday, August 8th, is our League Challenge night. I'm here with my co-host, Austin. How's it going?
Hello, I'm doing well. It is good to be here, Tom. I'm super excited for the night. We're getting a full house packed in over here. I believe registration was getting close to 40.
Yeah, last I saw, we were at officially 38, which is a lot of people for a challenge, and there's more filtering in as we speak. We're just getting some of those deck lists checked, all that good stuff, making sure people are checked in, have their player IDs, all that getting into the system. And we'll be kicking off round one here shortly. But 40 players at a league challenge, that's not common, is it?
No, it's not. I've been to a number of league challenges myself, and I do have to admit, none of them have been even close to being that number of people. So this is going to be probably a pretty competitive event here tonight. My hope is that we'll see some really amazing games and get a chance to see some really amazing top performing decks, potentially even a small preview going into Worlds this coming weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. So Worlds in Yokohama, Japan is just a couple days away. I think 3 days away. Starts on Friday, and it'll probably be the middle of the night Thursday for us when that stream gets going. But definitely going to be an exciting weekend for the Pokemon community. And like you said, Austin, we have a big crowd out there, about 40 players. A lot of top players from Minnesota are here, and they're working away on those championship points for next season, for next Worlds. Only 15 points really on the line here tonight for first place, so not quite as much, but with that 600 point threshold for Worlds next year, every point is going to count this season.
That is exactly right, Tom. This is going to be a very competitive season this year, and certainly I know here in Minnesota, the number of players who are really grinding for championship points has grown so much over this past year. And so I'm sure that there are many communities all over the United States and probably all over the world where Pokemon is just taking off right now, and that's super exciting, and also is going to, as I said, lead to a very competitive season this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the top decks that we're probably looking at in this current format tonight for the League Challenge, but as well as going into Worlds. I think the top deck on everyone's mind right now is that Gardevoir EX deck, which I know you're a big fan of yourself.
Yes.
And next to that, sort of Gardevoir's, the bane of Gardevoir's existence is the Lost Zone Toolbox deck with Sableye and all of that.
Definitely a powerful choice.
And then kind of not so much on the fringes anymore, but potentially one of those decks that are, for their power level, not as popular going into these larger tournaments. Those Arceus decks, whether it's the Arceus Duraludon with Umbreon or Arceus Giratina, I think those are some of the decks on the top of every player's mind as we go into this challenge and into the weekend for Worlds.
Absolutely. And certainly, I think those Arceus decks in particular, they can be kind of sneaky. A lot of people like to describe them as arc piles and things like that, but I don't know. My experience in playing against them tends to be that they find what they need oftentimes, even though, yes, some Iona disruption can certainly hurt, especially the Arc Umbreon archetypes, but they often are able to find what they need and can get going and start blasting those attacks off with that immense energy acceleration just right out of the gates, which is very threatening.
Yeah, and then on the back of that, we have decks like Lugia V-Star, which are looking to get some crazy Stage 2 Pokemon into play, start accelerating those special energies quickly, and start powering up some powerful attackers. Now, Lugia has sort of fallen by the wayside a little bit. I think some people think that it has a pretty tough Gardevoir matchup, which I think remains true for that deck. So we'll see, what sort of performance we see from that in the next week here. But sort of a sneaky deck that's not so sneaky anymore is the Rapid Strike Urshifu Toolbox deck, which I don't think anyone would have predicted to win NAIC this year, but it indeed did. And even going up against a Duraludon deck in the finals now, we know how that sort of went. There was a little bit of bricking on the side of the Arceus player.
Yeah.
But certainly one of those matchups that people wouldn't have expected to be the best for Rapid Strike Urshifu still came out on top, and that deck has been very popular here locally.
Absolutely. And taking a look at the Pokemon that they run in that deck, it is not difficult to see why. It has so many options available to it. There are so many plays that, especially as you start to learn the deck and figure out those damage and manipulation numbers of where you need to get those thresholds to, man, the Yoga Loop, the G-Max Rapid Flow, all of those options coming together turns into some very, very powerful turns that can sometimes, you may end up taking 6 prize cards over the course of 2 turns.
Yep.
And your opponent can't do anything about it but sit there and know that it is about to happen.
Yeah.
And it is very, very scary.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if maybe we will get a chance to see that here tonight.
Absolutely. Then another deck that used to be on the top of everyone's mind, but after the Pokemon Company decided to print multiple counters to it, we might have seen the death of Mew VMAX. We thought.
We
The thing is,
did think.
here's the question, and this is the question every Mew VMAX player asks themselves these days. I don't care about Drapion V anymore. Will my opponent be playing Spiritomb? Spiritomb shutting off the abilities of all basic V Pokemon, meaning no Genesect draw.
No Genesect draw. Of course, still will have access to that Forest Seal Stone, but Mew likes to see cards.
Yep.
And without the ability to draw sometimes that upwards of 10 or even 15 cards in a single turn, Mew is going to be in a tough shape if that Spiritomb comes down. Unless they play the Ice Cue, which, decent card, but it can only do so much.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, as a player, you come to a tournament wondering, do I respect Mew? Do I not? Do I save that one spot in my deck and cut that Spiritomb? Because it really is mostly useful into that Mew matchup. Fringe useful into other matchups, shutting off Lumineon against things like Lugia. But you ask yourself, do I save that extra spot in my deck and put in something else, assuming that I'm not going to see a lot of Mews today? And the funny thing is, this weekend, I think players chose that strategy here locally. We had a double cup weekend this weekend here in Minnesota, and DTE Mew won one of those cups.
That's just remarkable. Took the whole thing down, really.
Took the whole thing down, and because players chose not to respect Mew, not a lot of Drapions in the field, and no Spiritombs, even in the decks that might normally run Spiritomb if you were going to an IC or a regional or even Worlds. So I'm curious if that will play into things today. I saw a few Mew decks out there, not a ton. As I was walking around the tables, I saw a few people, laying out that Mew deck. And the question tonight then is, will they come up against enough Spiritombs or Drapions or Path to the Peaks that shut them down, or are they going to be able to make it all the way?
That is going to be very interesting to see. And I know building decks, it is sometimes very difficult to make those determinations and make those calls, as it could be a completely dead card for all of your matches, or it could be the single card that brings you to finals.
I know I personally have been on some mad Mew disrespect recently. I will not play Spiritomb in my deck. I don't want it.
He doesn't want to play the tune.
But, hey, I just tell myself, if I come up against Mew, the decks I've been playing Path to the Peak, it'll stick. It never sticks, though.
It never sticks. No, they never stick, it seems. Mew always seems to find a way. At least that's how it feels when I play against it.
That's true. That kind of feels how Lugia has been recently a little bit. Now, not less so with its bad Guardy matchup in this format, but in prior formats, it always felt like no matter what you did, Lugia just had what they needed. And Gardevoir is certainly that deck now, I think, where they have so much draw power in that deck that you always have to assume when you're playing up against the Guardy, they have that Disruption supporter, they have the Stadium Bump, they have the Boss's Orders. You just always got to assume that they have that card, no matter what you do to disrupt them.
Right. Exactly, especially if Gardevoir is able to get those first couple of turns of that critical setup that it needs. It is not uncommon for Gardevoir to be seeing upwards of sometimes even 10 cards in a single turn without using a supporter. Which is really absolutely astonishing. I love it when I am able to experience that as a pilot of Gardevoir. But yeah, the draw power of Gardevoir is immense. It has so many options and a lot of skill expression in the deck as well. It can usually find a way against most decks, again, with that caveat of it being able to get a good turn one off.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of an overview of some of the decks we're looking out for from the players outside there, getting ready at those tables, making sure all those deck lists are checked, ready to go. But we'll be back here shortly with round 1 of tonight's League Challenge. Stay tuned.
Absolutely.
Welcome back to the Forge's August League Challenge. We have round 1 ready to go here. We have Cody on the right side with Arceus, Duraludon, Umbreon VMAX, and MJ on the left side here with a pretty spicy lightning list, playing Miraidon EX, Magnezone V-Star, and Jolteon VMAX.
That's right, Tom. And my favorite thing looking at the deck list, and we'll see if this play is able to be made, is utilizing that Earthen Seal Stone, which is able to bring the HP of all of your opponent's V Pokemon in play down to 100 HP, which, as we know with Jolteon VMAX, is the perfect number to be able to take some easy knockouts.
Yeah, Cody's going to have to be careful in this game. He doesn't play a Manaphy to prevent bench damage. He doesn't really play any healing. And MJ could just immediately bring all of Cody's VMAXs down to 100 HP remaining. And use that Jolteon's attack to take 6 prize cards in 1 turn. But we see this game kicking off here. Looks like Cody is going first. Has a great start for any Arceus deck, starting with Arceus V in the active, another Arceus V on the bench, and a Nest Ball looking for something else. I have to imagine he's probably going for either the Radiant Alakazam here if he wants to start spreading damage around, or maybe an Umbreon or Duraludon V. We'll see what he chooses to pick here. But MJ on the other side also has a great starter in that Jolteon V with Free Retreat.
Absolutely. Being able to pivot to any other Pokemon that you want is a really fantastic option with the Jolteon, and it will be interesting to see what all is in their hand, what they're able to make of their hand. And also, I'm going to be curious to see if that Arceus in the active slot is going to be able to get an energy down as well.
Yeah. So we see Cody here, obviously a very experienced player, doing some prize checking, checked his Pokemon, checking his energy counts here now. Going to take a look at probably those supporters and stadiums next, and just make sure he knows everything that is prized. You don't want to be trying to power up a Duraludon and figure out you've prized all your fighting energies.
Absolutely.
So we'll see him finish up this prize check here. Our players get a little bit of extra time here on that first deck search to take a look through their deck, try to figure out what's prized, and then we'll see him resolve this Nest Ball here for whatever he chooses to grab.
Absolutely. If I were Cody here, it looks like he's okay.
All right.
For a moment, I thought he was maybe actually failing the Nest Ball, but looks like we have the Umbreon V coming down, being able to threaten a turn 2 Gust with the Umbreon VMAX, of course, is very scary. Jolteon V and many of the Pokemon that looks like are going to be coming down into play certainly do not want to be hit by an Arceus with a Choice Belt, and that might be able to be an option here. We will have to see.
Yeah, so that Jolteon V, only 190 HP, I believe. So able to get a one-shot on that with Arceus V Star with a Choice Belt on if he utilizes a double Turbo Energy to power it up. But unfortunately for Cody, no energy turn 1. That is like the nightmare for an Arceus player. You want to get that Arceus V down, but you also need to get an energy. And he got the Arceus V, but no energy. But we'll go over to MJ's side here. He is starting with an energy attachment to that Jolteon, and then bringing that Hawlucha down to utilize its ability, putting 1 damage counter on 2 of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So we'll see a damage counter on the Umbreon V and the benched Arceus V, and then a Judge from MJ, forcing both players to shuffle their hand into their deck and draw 4 new cards.
It's a lot of cards that were in Cody's hand that I imagine he was hoping he was going to be able to hang on to. We'll see if one of those is an energy, maybe a Professor's Research, or even an Adventurer's Discovery.
Yeah, MJ on the other side is going to have to get a pretty good hand off of this too. I think one of the things that he would love to see is a Miraidon EX here, or a way to find one. Start filling up his bench with more Pokemon, maybe a Radiant Greninja as well to start drawing more cards if he has energy. But I think I'm seeing in his hand Magnezone V, a Choice Belt, an energy, and I'm not sure what that third card is. I think it's the Jolteon VMAX. So we're seeing a Choice Belt go down here onto the Jolteon V, and he will utilize that Jolteon V's first attack to do 50 damage to the active Arceus V.
Yes, utilizing the Choice Belt with the base 20 damage on the Jolteon. And we do see that Adventurer's Discovery come down from Cody. That means we're certainly going to be seeing a Arceus V-Star and likely some other friends
Yeah.
coming with him.
I have to imagine, though, that Cody will not be wanting to evolve that Umbreon here just yet. Going to want to wait to utilize that VMAX ability till later in the game, to utilize it to gust something up from the bench. But I did not get to see a great look at Cody's hand. We'll see what he's forced to V-Star for here this turn. If he doesn't have any energy, he is going to have to V-Star this turn just to start getting his board set up. Choosing to evolve that first Arceus on the bench. The reason that he would choose to do that over the active is he can V-Star power here, or Star Birth here for a DTE, attach that to the active Arceus V, and at least utilize that Trinity Charge attack to get some more energy on his board.
I really like this play here. It does not seem like there is going to be a lot of pressure coming from the opponent in terms of an immediate knockout. And so being able to utilize Trinity Charge here for some free energy, given that that turn one attachment couldn't happen, is highly efficient right now.
Yeah. So Cody eyeing up a few things. I think we're definitely going to see a DTE grabbed here. And it looked like he was looking at an Ultra Ball potentially. But maybe deciding, I think he's bringing to the front whatever energy he's going to be attaching with this Trinity Charge. But we'll see what the second card is that he chooses to take here.
Could be a supporter.
So DTE for sure is that first one chosen. He's got the Umbreon VMAX in hand. I believe that is also a energy in hand. I'm not entirely sure.
He's eyeing the boss.
Yeah.
Wonder if he's considering utilizing that boss option to stall with the Magnezone V in the active potentially.
I think he's choosing that Lost City here, though. Maybe wanting to bump any stadiums that might come into play. Jolteon classically has been a deck that likes to play Path to the Peak, so that may be something that Cody is worried about here and wants to have a stadium out in hand to that. But we see a Duraludon V come down, and then just a Trinity Charge from this active Arceus V, and I think that we're going to be seeing a couple energy being spread out here on the board. I'm not sure that Cody's going to commit all to one Pokemon, and we do see that one energy coming down to that active Arceus V and two to the Duraludon V. He's got the other Arceus V-Star in hand, so he'll be able to Trinity Nova next turn. I don't think we're going to probably see a KO on this active Arceus V on MJ's side of the field. Passing it over to MJ here, and he's got a busted hand in terms of attacking, but not much else. He does have the Jolteon VMAX and the energy to be able to get this attack off, which is not something that Cody really wants to see here. Cody doesn't have a way to one-shot this Jolteon VMAX, and so it's going to be able to do this for 2 turns. It's going to do 100 damage to the active and 100 damage to one of Cody's bench Pokemon that has any damage counters on it.
Looks like choosing that Umbreon V, forcing Cody to have to evolve that next turn to prevent a knockout.
Rough hand here, though, for MJ. Despite the fact that his attacker is fully powered up, he definitely wants to see another supporter card, start drawing more cards, get another Jolteon set up for sure. And we see Cody here on his turn evolving that active Arceus V into the V-Star. Has a Nest Ball as well to find another Umbreon V. Just getting ready to utilize that Umbreon V's ability, the Umbreon VMAX's Dark Signal ability.
That's right. Very powerful ability. Pokemon loves to have some kind of gusting option in format, or at least certainly as of the last couple of years. And Umbreon VMAX, very similar to Lycanroc GX from a few years ago during the Sun and Moon format. As far as I'm concerned, it's the exact same ability, just the different name. It looks like he does choose to evolve. He's not going to use the ability, though. He wants to be able to smack into the Jolteon.
So Cody forced here to evolve that Umbreon VMAX, otherwise the Jolteon was just going to get a free KO on that Umbreon V, only having 200 HP on the next turn. So choosing to evolve that Umbreon and not being able to use the ability to full effect here, or to any effect here. But he will put that Lost City into play, and then it looks like Professor's Research for a fresh hand of 7. And MJ over there very jealous of Cody's hand.
That's right.
Wishing he had that many cards to play with.
We'll see what MJ's top deck is able to bring here in a moment. Cody considering a few more options. The attachment goes down onto the benched Arceus V-Star.
It was looking like a tough start here for Cody, but he's got all of these V-Stars and V-Maxes into play now and powered up with energy, while MJ is living off of that top deck. So at the start of the game, we were a little bit worried about Cody's start, but Arceus able to turn it around using that Starbirth power and the power of Trinity Charge.
That's right. That is, of course, one of the downsides of utilizing Judge. Only seeing 4 cards after the shuffle draw is
and we
not...
see the top deck of Research. Sorry to cut you off, Austin.
No.
But MJ top decks the Research and is going to get a fresh hand of 7 cards here. And this may just be the saving grace that MJ needed to stay in this game. We're going to see a few Nest Balls in his hand, I assume coming down. Probably going to find himself either a Miraidon or another Jolteon. Obviously, that Miraidon can be utilized to, search for more lightning basics. But we'll see what MJ chooses to do here. He's got the lightning energy in hand to start powering up another attacker as well, and an Ultra Ball to find a second Jolteon VMAX on his next turn. So MJ bailed out by that top deck of the Professor's Research, and we see him going into the deck here with a Nest Ball.
That's one of the amazing things about this game is sometimes one card is the entire difference between a complete game loss or being able to stay in the game and threaten some serious pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to see MJ eyeing down, I believe, that Miraidon EX here, and setting up a couple other Jolteons in hand, which I believe he'll be going to grab with that Miraidon's ability. Miraidon's ability saying that you can go into your deck and search for 2 basic lightning Pokemon and put them onto your bench. And that's what we see him do here. 2 more Jolteons coming down onto the field, and one of the cool things here for MJ as he gets these Jolteon Vs powered up and ready to go and evolved into VMAXs, they all have free retreat, so he can be retreating in and out of them, attacking with the ones that have no damage on them. And Cody's going to have to find some Boss's Orders or another Umbreon VMAX to bring up those damaged Jolteons. But for this turn, MJ is just locked into attacking with this already damaged Jolteon VMAX, which means he's going to be giving up 3 prizes on Cody's next turn.
That's right. And of course, this turn, MJ is only going to be taking those 2 prize cards, and that is going to be forcing 2 more knockouts that MJ is going to need to take. We will see how the damage is going to be further split. I'm guessing it's probably going to be going onto that benched Umbreon, but we'll see. We'll see what the choice is here.
Yeah, I think in this instance here, he has to put that 100 damage onto the bench to Umbreon. Although we do see an escape rope here, meaning Cody has to make a decision, and it looks like he's going into the other Arceus V-Star here, the undamaged one, which makes sense. This Arceus V-Star can take 2 hits, and MJ able to just go into that bench Jolteon V and retreat for free back into the VMAX. And smack into this Arceus V-Star, KOing the benched Arceus V-Star and putting another 130 damage onto the active. So 2 more attacks here for MJ, and that's game. He can attack into the Arceus V-Star and the Umbreon 2 more times, and that'll be the game. But can he get there before Cody is able to wrap this game up by taking 6 prize cards? Cody's going to take 3 here on this turn, and we see that Luminous Energy coming down onto the Umbreon and an Iono as well.
Iono very similar to Judge, mixed with Marnie from the Shield and Sword set.
Sword and Shield.
Sword and Shield. Thank you for that correction.
So both players shuffling their hands to the bottom of their deck and drawing cards for how many prize cards they have remaining. So Cody gets a fresh hand of 6 here, and MJ drawing up to 4. Looks like Cody found that Radiant Alakazam here, which can start moving some of that damage around MJ's field.
trying to decide if he's going to bench it or not.
I think that is a tough decision here for Cody. The thing is, MJ does have a full bench here, and Cody's got to ask himself, does MJ play another Hawlucha? Because if that is the case, then all MJ has to do is KO the Umbreon and the Alakazam. But the thing is, I don't think that's going to matter, because the Alakazam has 130 HP, I believe, which means that MJ will have to attack it twice, the same as he'd have to attack this Arceus V-Star or Umbreon twice to take a KO. And so benching that Alakazam, I don't think ultimately would have mattered for Cody, but choosing to play it safe here and not do that, I don't think the damage manipulation really matters for him anyway.
I would agree with that. It seems like a couple more energies coming into play here, getting things further powered up. But I agree with you, Tom. I think benching the Alakazam probably could have been fine. And MJ waiting for the shuffle.
So we see that Jolteon VMAX of MJ's going to the Lost Zone, given that the Lost City is in play. And MJ choosing to promote that Jolteon V that has no energy attached yet. We do see the energy draw for turn from MJ, which is what he needed to power up this bench Jolteon V. And I believe he's got an Ultra Ball in hand so that he can go get the VMAX. So this is going to be a tough spot, I think, for Cody, because Cody needs to take his prize cards from KOing that Jolteon VMAX, which he has not done yet.
Yes.
But he's also in a position where he needs to take 3 prize cards before MJ attacks twice with this Jolteon VMAX. The thing is, he also has to be able to retreat that active Arceus V-Star out of that active position, because Jolteon VMAX can't hit 2 bench Pokemon, it just hits the active and 1 bench Pokemon. So he can avoid those attacks by moving one of those damaged Pokemon out of the active position. But in that position, all that MJ needs is a boss's orders to end the game. So
that's right.
It'll be interesting to see what happens here. But MJ, with an Ultra Ball searching through that deck, here's the question: did he prize the Jolteon VMAX that he needs? I'm trying to figure out what's happening here. I think that was his hand, and he dropped that electricity generator. But searching through his deck and not making a quick decision here, and the obvious choice is the Jolteon VMAX. But he does have it. So a slow decision here, weirdly. But I think that is the correct play here. He's got to get that Jolteon VMAX out. He's got the energy in hand to power it up.
Clear win condition on board, putting immense pressure on Cody. I'll be honest, Tom, this game is looking a little bit like it might be decided outside of potentially some boss stall pressure.
Yeah. So it looks like Cody did remember to grab his prize cards here now, and grabbed a Stadium and a Research and a Switch off there. So those are actually very good cards for Cody. He does want to switch out of this active spot on this next turn. I would imagine he's probably going to be attacking with that fresh, undamaged Duraludon VMAX on his next turn.
There's that lightning attachment to be able to get the Jolteon online. And there's that free retreat in action.
So we see that attack from MJ here. He's got an escape rope in hand. Unfortunately for him, Cody does have 2 undamaged bench Pokemon. So that escape rope isn't going to force Cody into any weird situations on the next turn. So MJ is still going to be probably living off the top deck, hoping for a boss's orders. The problem here for MJ is he only does play 1 boss's orders, but he does play a Pokegear as well. And I believe... no, he doesn't play any Forest Seal Stone, so it's going to be a tough ask here for MJ to find that boss's orders off of the top deck. Pretty slim chances, but that is going to be his win condition here next turn if Cody does choose to attack with the Duraludon or the benched Umbreon V this turn.
It's amazing how even just an escape rope can change the game in such a dramatic way. Cody making some decisions here.
So I believe, did Cody Ultra Ball here and is searching his deck to decide?
I think
Or
he
Nest Ball.
Nest Ball. Trying to decide if he's failing it. I'm not sure what the bench would be here.
So we see the Ultra Ball come down, Ultra Balling away 2 Lost Cities. I believe he's going to be looking to see if he's got that Umbreon VMAX, but I do believe that that might be prized. I could be wrong, however. So it looks like
Grabbing
off of that
Arceus.
Ultra Ball, he's grabbing an Arceus V. I can't imagine that he will be benching that here, but probably just thinning out the deck. A lot of DTEs in hand, a Research and a Switch. We see that Double Turbo Energy come down onto the bench to Umbreon VMAX, and then a Professor's Research. I would have liked to see Cody utilize that Switch to switch into the Duraludon VMAX here, I believe. On this turn, I think he needs to get out of that
agree.
active spot, but he could have preserved an energy on that Arceus by utilizing the Switch card. But we see another Ultra Ball coming down here, Ultra Balling away the Duraludon VMAX and the Adventurer's Discovery. Looks like he's eyeing up a Duraludon V here, so as I suspected, that Umbreon VMAX is in those last 3 prize cards. Well, never mind, it's in his hand, but we see Cody Ultra Balling away that Duraludon and the Choice Belt. Looks like Cody's just doing a lot of deck thinning here, making sure that if MJ plays any Disruption, he's going to have more outs left in that deck and less cards that he doesn't want to see.
That is correct.
Lots of cards discarded on this turn for Cody. We'll clean up that board and see what Cody chooses to attack with here, but it's going to have to be a fresh attacker. He can't attack with this Arceus V-Star.
No. It's interesting. Interesting to see. Oh, did he just attack here? He did.
Are we missing something, Austin?
I am trying to figure that out.
I think
Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the benched Umbreon VMAX has 310 HP. Is that correct, Tom?
that's correct, and it has 210 damage counters already on it.
So declaring
Are
an
the
attack
players-
here should win the game.
Are the players seeing something we're not seeing? But an attack from this Jolteon should be
There it
the
is.
game,
Yep.
and Cody extends the fist bump there to MJ. MJ taking down round 1 with a very rogue deck. Jolteon VMAX, we love to see it.
We absolutely love to see it, and I would never have guessed or thought that we would be seeing a Jolteon VMAX coming down here in round 1.
Yeah.
You love to see it. It was able to take down the Arc Duraludon Umbreon deck. Certainly one of those decks we were talking about in the beginning that has some really amazing exploding potential, that incredible amount of HP, and the awkward prize mapping, and Jolteon was able to make relatively quick work of that.
Yeah. So you can see the effect of those early turns, though, and how that game turned out. Cody not having that energy turn 1 means that he's 1 attack behind, and at the end of the game, he's 1 attack away from winning. So the whiff of that energy on turn 1 for Cody really is what broke the game there for him.
Absolutely.
And MJ, even though he struggled to draw a lot of cards that game, was drawing just the perfect cards that he needed to keep powering up those Jolteons and finding the evolutions to continue attacking turn after turn with that Jolteon VMAX.
Absolutely. It's always interesting to see how the cascade of events can happen in this game. Of course, as you mentioned, no energy on that Arceus V in the turn 1 was one of the nails in the coffin. And the second nail in the coffin, I think, was that top deck of the Professor's Research.
Yeah.
I think that if that had not been the top deck, if it was a different card, say another Lightning Energy or anything else, I think that game would have ended a lot differently as well.
Yeah. So a tough turn of events there for Cody, but congratulations to MJ on taking down round 1 here with a rogue deck that we love to see. So we'll be back here in just a few minutes with a winner's interview with MJ. Stay tuned.
And we are back here with MJ, able to take down the round 1 win against Cody. And welcome. It's great to have you. Thank you for sitting down here with us. And the main question that I want to ask you to get us kicked off here is, what led to your choice of bringing Jolteon VMAX here to the challenge today?
It's been kind of the deck I've been rolling with recently. I've honestly always liked the Evolutions and Jolteon. I saw a deck online a good while ago that was like 50 cards of the current one I'm running, and just thought I'll try that. It was all right, but trying to get it more consistent, so I been testing it and playing it and making a lot of changes for several weeks now.
That's awesome. I think the Evolutions are awesome. They're obviously a huge fan favorite. And the Jolteon VMAX is such an awesome card. Of course, it had a huge amount of attention and spotlight just a couple of formats ago, back, of course, before Scarlet and Violet, but did begin to fall off. And it's awesome that you were able to find a deck list that you liked and were able to bring it, and obviously to some success here today. One of the cards I noticed in your list that I thought was particularly cool was the Earthen Seal Stone. And I hope you get a chance to be able to pull that off at some point here today. That's a fantastic, awesome card inclusion.
Yeah, it's a bit more of a panic play than anything. I was honestly expecting to use it here because kind of the Arceus decks, the big VMAX and V-Star decks is where it's for.
Absolutely.
So,
what about, tell me a little bit about some of the other matchups. Have you been testing against a lot of the meta decks with the VMAX?
Main thing I want to see is Lost Box, of course. Just take the multiple knockouts on a turn. That basic Magnezone V is there to deal with Manaphy, get it out of the way quickly so I can start hitting the bench. Gardevoir is okay, but I really have to get going quickly because they can just snowball and overwhelm me. Basically anything that relies on big multi-prizers is something I don't want to see. So.
Absolutely. Well, that certainly makes sense. And one of the other things I wanted to bring up, of course, too, was what an incredible moment with the top deck of the Professor's Research. I'm sure as soon as you picked that card up, you just wanted to slam it down onto the ground. I couldn't see all the cards in your hand at that time, but I knew that things were looking a little bit rough at that moment. How do you think that impacted the game?
I think that was everything, because I'm pretty sure I had one card in my hand before that draw, and it was Elemental Badge. So
yeah.
I had nothing.
Definitely not a lot to work with there, and being able to see, of course, a fresh 7 cards makes, as we saw, a very, very big difference. Well, MJ, thank you so much for coming back into the studio, and
Thanks
we
for
wish
having
you
me.
absolutely we wish you luck in the next rounds, and we'll see you around here.
All right, thank you.
Welcome back to the Forge's August League Challenge. Going into round 2 here, we have Peyton on the left piloting a Turbo Lost Box deck, and Dylan on the right playing Lugia V-Star.
That's right. This is certainly one of those matchups that we have seen play out quite a few times over this last format, and even last format as well. And really interesting to see how this one plays out. There can be a couple really key things that can happen during the game that can really swing the game, and so I'm going to be excited to see what the starters are going to be for each of these players and what kind of hand they are going to be working with.
Yeah, so Peyton on the left here, probably going to be looking to hit for weakness on that Lugia V-Star with his Raikou V, or even potentially take out both Archeops utilizing a Greninja play into a Sableye Lost Mine attack that can take out both Archeops over the course of 2 turns, limiting Dylan's ability to get special energies into play. Dylan, on the other hand, is going to be looking to utilize that Tyranitar V's Cragalanche attack to take KOs every turn against Peyton here and discard key cards out of Peyton's deck.
Absolutely. Never underestimate the power of a Cragalanche. Those 2 cards seem to just about always be the 2 that you are looking for.
Yeah. So we see the game starting here. Peyton with a Comfey Flower Selecting, getting rid of that switch cart and playing a Nest Ball here. I didn't get a chance to see if he has any energies in hand, but if he does, he's probably looking to use either Radiant Greninja here or just go find another Comfey. But we do see him eyeing up that Radiant Greninja. Dylan with a tough start on the other side of the field, starting with that Pumpkaboo. We do see that he has 2 Archeops and a Professor's Research in hand, though, and you can't ask for anything much better than that as a Lugia player.
That is absolutely true. That Pumpkin Pit ability also coming in very useful against Path to the Peak and Temple of Sinnoh. However, with it being in the active spot here and with a 2 retreat cost, that is going to be a little bit annoying, but
yeah,
we do see a Comfey come down on Peyton's side.
So yeah, Peyton going for that Comfey. The tough thing about that Pumpkaboo, starting it for Dylan, is that's really just a free prize here for Peyton on his next turn, and an easy prize for Sableye to utilize and take extra damage with. Now Peyton with a tough choice here. That Raikou V, which he only has 1 of, or a Colress, and he needs that Colress for his next turn, but he cannot get rid of that Raikou V, and so forced to send that Colress to the Lost Zone. And now we see a Lost Vacuum here coming down, getting rid of Switch Cart and getting rid of that Beach Court Stadium now. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that choice from Peyton to get rid of his own stadium there. It's not really helping Dylan this turn, and it can definitely help Peyton on the next turn, but maybe Peyton's thinking Dylan is most likely going to be able to replace that stadium with a Mesagoza or something on this turn, and I just want to get my own stadium into my Lost Zone with that Lost Vacuum and start building up those Lost Zone numbers. But having been forced to get rid of that Colress, I think Peyton is going to have a tough turn next turn if he doesn't find another. And we see Dylan here with a Nest Ball finding that Lugia V, and we already know he has double Archeops and Research in hand. And so he's going to have about the best turn 1 that you can hope for as a Lugia player.
Absolutely. Those double Arceus being in the discard is a dream come true. There we see that Research getting slammed down.
I think that's 3 Archeops actually into the discard pile there.
Really?
Potentially. And a Lumineon. So a little bit overkill there, but you definitely don't need those Archeops in your deck anymore as Dylan once you've gotten them into the discard pile. So happy to see those go away, thinning the deck. And he's got a Mesagoza as well, which will help him find Pokemon this turn. And I have to imagine he's probably looking for a way to find a Lugia V-Star on the next turn. But that Mesagoza tails, meaning that he can go find a basic Pokemon. I think he just chose to fail it. And benching that other Lugia V from hand, it looks like he's got a lot of energy, but he does have an Ultra Ball in hand to be able to find that Lugia V-Star on his next turn. He's looking at that Jet Energy, and I think that's a big mistake here. I think you got to save that for the next turn. You really don't need to have an attachment on this turn with that Jet Energy in hand. And now you're just offering up that Lugia V to be KO'd by a Raikou.
Exactly. There's already 4 cards in the Lost Zone that we know that Peyton is working with here. And that is very manageable to be able to get that Raikou play off.
Dylan just ultimately choosing to end his turn with a Read the Wind there, getting rid of that single strike Urn of Vitality, which is his only way of recycling those single strike energies. I think that is a rough decision there. Peyton here, however, looks like he's flower selecting into a switch cart and a Forest Seal Stone. Peyton now has 3 switch carts in his Lost Zone, so a lot of switching options out, but that Forest Seal Stone with that Raikou V in hand means that he's guaranteed to find a Chorus's Experiment on this turn if he needs it.
Right. Getting rid of that switch cart there does, of course, feel difficult, but I think that that was the correct decision.
And looks like we're going to use that last switch cart here to go find a Mirage Gate off of that flower selecting, meaning Peyton has 6 in his Lost Zone with a Chorus in hand, meaning he's guaranteed to get to 7. He's got the Raikou V in hand and an energy to attach to this Comfey to retreat it. He is guaranteed to take this KO on Lugia V-Star unless he's prized both of his Lightning Energy, which I don't think he has.
Very powerful opening here for Peyton. We see some energy acceleration coming down here. Oh, sorry, the Colress coming down here.
Yeah, so Peyton utilizing that Forest Seal Stone here to go find Chorus's Experiment, which is going to allow him to look at the top 5 cards of his deck and choose 2 to put into the Lost Zone and put the rest into his hand. Now, I don't want to speak bad things into existence here for Peyton, but if he hits double Lightning Energy off of this Colress, that's going to be no attack here for him this turn. Unlikely, but that is certainly a danger here of having the Chorus before he Mirage Gates.
Absolutely.
We do see a Drapion, and that's an easy one to send to the Lost Zone here in this matchup.
2
and
more
you have
water
to imagine
energies.
he's going to send either that Palpad or that Stadium to the Lost Zone, but he chooses the Palpad ultimately here, which could hurt him later in the game, not having access to those extra supporters that he could put back into his deck from his discard pile. But bumping that Mesagoza, I don't remember if Peyton used that Mesagoza, but I hope he did before he bumped it.
He did. Unfortunately, it was a Tails. The Mesagoza gaming so far during this match has been all Tails here.
So Peyton...
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I would imagine that Dylan is probably a little nervous right now, seeing this fully powered up Raikou, knowing that the retreat is going to be coming down off of the Comfey.
Yeah, so Peyton going to take 2 prizes here, hitting, well, there's a question to be had here. Does he have enough damage on the field to knock out this Lugia? And I think he does as long as he benches that Comfey. Currently, I believe he'd only be doing 200 damage. He's got to bench the Comfey that's in his hand, and that will bring it up to 240. Plenty of damage to knock out this Lugia V with Lightning Weakness.
Just checking the math there quick, making sure both players are agreeing on the board state. And we're back to Dylan.
Peyton going down to 4 prize cards remaining. Dylan here playing that Capturing Aroma, hoping to hit a heads here, and he does. That means he's going to be able to go grab that Lugia V-Star and utilize its V-Star power to bring those Archeops from his discard pile onto his bench.
Very powerful option, of course, for Lugia, and he is likely going to need to utilize both Archeops to power up the active Lugia. He's only going to be able to use 1 double turbo energy in order to get the KO on the Raikou, which of course you just have to do in this situation. That you cannot ignore this threat in the active.
So we see an Ultra Ball here from Dylan, discarding a Lugia V and a Squawkabilly EX to go find that Tyranitar V, and he's got the cool art of that Tyranitar V there.
Yes, that card art is absolutely beautiful, and I know that the value of that card is only going to increase as well, so I'd love to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we see Dylan utilizing his V-Star power here. Going to look through his discard pile and find 2 non-rule box colorless Pokemon to put onto his bench, but as we know, the only choice is those Archeops.
Exactly. That V-Star power might as well search your discard pile for 2 Archeops and place them onto your bench as far as I'm concerned.
So we see Dylan utilizing that first Archeops ability to search through his deck for 2 special energy and attach them to one of his Pokemon, eyeing up that V-Guard energy here, and I would assume because he has a double turbo energy already in hand, he's going to be attaching just another basic or another colorless special energy. Choosing to save that V-Guard here though and attach a gift energy to this Lugia instead, which I think is the correct move here. You want to V-Guard that Tyranitar V so that it's harder for Peyton's Dragonite to KO it in one shot later in the game.
needing to be able to, Peyton will have to utilize a Sableye or some other kind of attacker to be able to sprinkle some damage on that, and that certainly is a very powerful option.
So here we see the power of this Lugia V-Star deck, able to power up 2 attackers pretty much all the way in one turn, just using those Archeops abilities. And we see Lugia use that attack to discard the stadium and take a KO on Peyton's active.
And this prize race is now completely tied up 4-4. And it'll be very interesting to see what the response that Peyton has will end up being. I can't quite tell if he has a Colress in hand or not. I don't believe he does right now, so he's probably going to be trying to find that. We do see the Rod bringing back that Raikou.
So I'm not sure what else Peyton had in hand here. Obviously, he's going to be looking for a Colress to just continue drawing more cards to this deck. He's going to be able to utilize multiple of these flower selecting abilities from these Comfies. And we'll see what he's able to put together here on this turn.
Potentially an interesting option that Peyton might be able to go for this turn would be to utilize Sableye to get some of that damage sprinkled onto the relevant attackers, although that may open up one of the Archeops to be an attacker. He does find the Colress.
We see a Nest Ball and a Mirage Gate here, so he is going to be able to power up that Raikou again. Choosing to hold on, I believe, to the Mirage Gate, the Escape Rope, and the Nest Ball. Getting rid of that Lost Vacuum. Don't really need those vacuums anymore. Already utilized the Forest Seal Stone, so it doesn't need another one of those. And we're going to see that Nest Ball come out for another Raikou, and it looks like Peyton's going to just be able to take back-to-back 2-prize KOs. And I'm not sure there's going to be much Dylan can do to respond to that.
Yes, definitely a very, very powerful turn here. One thing that is going to be interesting, though, is I believe that he has a couple water energy in hand right now, and so being able to have an immediate follow-up attack with Dragonite may be a little bit more difficult than it first may appear.
Yeah, I think Peyton's going to have to be forced after this turn to kind of play a 1-prize game a little bit. I think that his path to victory can go a couple of ways here. He can knock out this Lugia here and then bring in that Dragonite to knock out the Tyranitar later, but with the V-Guard on it, he's going to have to set up a little bit of damage on there already. So I think next turn we're going to have to see a Sableye from Peyton to set up damage on that Tyranitar, and then ultimately a Dragonite later. Or alternatively, we could see a Greninja play onto Pumpkaboo and an Archeops, and then Sableye to finish off the game.
Right.
But we see Peyton here taking that KO on the Lugia V-Star. It is going to do enough damage here. I believe he is doing 320 damage with weakness. It should be 160 before weakness with how many bench Pokemon are in play. And we see Peyton go down to 2 prize cards remaining.
And the top deck looks like another Lugia V-Star. Could be discard fodder for an Ultra Ball.
So we see him Ultra Ball away that Professor Burnett and the Lugia V-Star. And I wonder if we're just going to be eyeing up another Tyranitar V here, or just something to thin the deck out a little bit.
Absolutely. I believe, yes, one of the Lumineon was already discarded. It seems like potentially one of them is prized.
So it looks
The
like
Yveltal
Dylan,
coming down here.
I wonder if Dylan's committing to benching this Yveltal. I think if that's the case, that I guess it's not necessarily a mistake, but putting another easy 1-prizer for Peyton to KO out into play is maybe not the way to go here when he already has that Pumpkaboo, and Peyton only needs 2 more prize cards. Between 2 Sableyes or a Greninja and the Sableye, he's going to be able to take this game, and we have to see what Dylan is able to do here. Dylan is going to get the KO with this Tyranitar V on the Raikou, though. And he's going to be attaching an energy to that Yveltal to set it up, but I'm not certain that he needs another attacker here. He's going to have to hope that this Tyranitar gets in the rest of the way.
Right. Ultimately, if this Tyranitar goes down, of course, that is going to be it, and I would be hard-pressed to think that there's going to be a different target, although, Sableye certainly could be an option, although needing to utilize 2 Sableyes can sometimes be tricky depending on if there is any hand disruption. We'll see if that is able to happen. But we do see that Raikou go down.
Peyton has a lot of cards in hand here, like you said, a lot of water energy, but he does have a Colress, multiple Mirage Gates, a Cramorant to set up maybe some damage on this Tyranitar if he needs to. A great flower selecting there, getting rid of that Battle VIP pass, no longer usable. We're going to see that escape rope come down from Peyton, and Dylan's going to have to choose another Pokemon to promote to the active spot.
One thing I will say, though, is there's a lot of energy that we're seeing in Peyton's hand right now.
Yeah, Peyton's definitely going to be searching for that Radiant Greninja here soon, able to discard that energy out of hand, draw him a couple cards, and then Super Rod that energy back into the deck to be able to utilize it with that Mirage Gate.
Right.
So let's see what Peyton's able to do here. I think we're going to see that Colress come down now.
Yep.
And Colress able to look at the top 5 cards of the deck, put 2 into the Lost Zone, 3 into Peyton's hand. We do see that Greninja and the Sableye. And I can't quite see what that third card is, but I think it's a Nest Ball. And that is a great get off of that Colress for Peyton. He's going to be able to draw more cards with that Greninja. And that Sableye is the attacker that he probably wants to see this turn if he's not able to utilize the Greninja.
Absolutely. Definitely a very powerful Colress there with some easy options. You love to be able to see that. Peyton making... Let's see Iron there. So okay.
Has the Super Rod, getting those Psychic Energies back into the deck. And I think we're going to see Peyton go in with a Sableye attack here, which makes the most sense to me. He's able to KO that benched Pumpkaboo with the Sableye and set up 6 more damage counters on an Archeops and finish that Archeops off on the next turn with another Sableye Lost Mine attack.
That's right. It's got that Nest Ball in hand already, and so we know it's going to be an option. We'll see what the response is going to be. I would imagine Dylan's going to have to go for some kind of hand disruption if he is going to really have any shot here at winning this game. Can't quite tell what all is in his hand, but...
The nice thing for Dylan here is Craglanch will take a KO on the Sableye, which means he's able to discard those top 2 cards of Peyton's deck, and if he's able to discard something very impactful for Peyton, it could buy him an extra turn. But we see Peyton attaching that water energy to the active Comfey, retreating into the Sableye, and we're going to see a Lost Mine attack here. I have to believe we're going to see all of that damage go onto the Pumpkaboo, and then the rest of it either onto an Archeops or the Yveltal here, and looks like Peyton does choose the Archeops. Now, I don't think that any of the math would work out against Peyton, but I think you probably want to put all of that damage onto the Yveltal here, just given that it has less HP than that Archeops. And if we see some sort of healing card, like a Radiant Serena or something, that could mess up some of the math, although Radiant Serena does not heal nearly enough to avoid a KO on that Archeops on the next turn.
Right.
So Dylan having to decide what to do here, but I think he's got to retreat into this Tyranitar and just Craglanch and hope he gets rid of the cards that Peyton needs to attack again with another Sableye. Peyton just at 1 prize card remaining, Dylan at 2 prize cards remaining here, and we'll see what he's able to piece together.
Attachment comes down onto the Yveltal. It is interesting. Can't tell. He is okay. Good. He is going to retreat here. I was going to say, I'm not sure. Probably have to be attacking with Craglanch here.
And we're going to see a Craglanch here from the Tyranitar. Dylan goes down to 1 prize card remaining and discarding a Psychic Energy and an Escape Rope off of the top of Peyton's deck, an important retreat out, and that energy that Peyton needs to attack with the Sableye, but Peyton just has the Clara here, and we know that he's got another Mirage Gate in hand, I believe, to be able to retreat out of this Comfey. And so I believe that Peyton should just have game here. He's going to bench that Sableye, attach the energy, probably play Mirage Gate out of hand, or he's just got an Escape Rope, and that's going to be the game. Lost Mine going to do enough damage to take out that last Archeops, and we see Peyton take the win here off of Lugia V-Star, a classic matchup, Lost Box versus Lugia.
Absolutely. Obviously, in this matchup, you saw the full power of that Raikou being able to take 4 prize cards on its own, which is really amazing. Being able to hit for that weakness against Lugia V-Star makes such an incredible difference, even with a relatively slow start from Peyton there in the beginning. And of course, we did see an absolutely bonkers research that came down for Dylan there on the turn one, being able to see everything that he needed. Of course, going second is a difficult thing to do, especially after dealing with that turn two knockout from that right.
Yeah. So I think we did see, though, one of those things that came back to bite Dylan there. He had a great start with the Archeops in hand and the research, but starting that Pumpkaboo came back to bite him. An easy target for that Sableye to take a prize off of and spread 6 damage counter somewhere else, and ultimately that led to Dylan's demise. But we'll be back here shortly with a winner's interview with Peyton. Stay tuned.
Hello and welcome back. We have Peyton here in the studio after his win against Dylan. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Feeling really good after that win. Just because hitting the nuts on 2 turns back-to-back with Raikou on Lugia just feels good. You know?
Absolutely. That lightning weakness really can be a hindrance for Lugia, and being able to utilize that Raikou for those 4 prizes back-to-back was, as we saw, extremely impactful. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, getting those 4 prize cards out that early just sets me up for so much stuff with Sableye on those Archeops, and the Pumpkaboo he started, really helps out there too. It does kind of feel bad because it's just return KO, so 4 for 4 more or less, but I'm in the lead because I took it before him. But it could get a little dicey there if I got like Ioned or something, which that was kind of I was very worried about there, but. Not seeing the Iono come down or a Judge or whatever he had to disrupt me felt really good.
Absolutely. Certainly, hand disruption is, of course, the kryptonite of Lost Box. Oftentimes, there are many times where you can still kind of claw back. You still have a lot of draw power utilizing those comfies and, of course, being able to utilize Colress. But yeah, sometimes after some hand disruption, you just don't see what you want to be able to see.
That's happened at the Cups this weekend. I was playing Lost Box. I've been on it for a couple days now, but that was the big problem I was seeing a lot of hand disruption. So I haven't seen it much today. Hope to not run into it too much, because that would really ruin me. But that game felt really good. I don't think I had really any misplays. The first game today I did, but cleaning it up now. Hopefully keep going today. But,
absolutely.
Yeah, just Lost Boxes felt good. He was talking about, right after the match, he was talking about either starting the Pumpkaboo or starting Lumineon. And in that scenario, I definitely think he chose the right play. Even though it did kind of screw him over in the end, but it did feel better for him for sure to not put down the Lumineon. Because, if he doesn't know if my boss is prized or not, I do. But it was prized for my last prize. But, it was a clean match. It went by fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was like 4 turns, I think, or something like that. 4 or 5 turns.
Yeah, it was very
for me
quick.
at least on my end. Yeah.
It was definitely a quick match, and I think it was a great match in the sense that we got to see, I think, a lot of the best that both decks have to offer in many ways. And it looks like we've also got a shout out to you here.
Yeah. I don't even know who that is actually, but hello.
Any closing thoughts? Any advice for other Lost Box players? Anything you're expecting to see?
I've been playing it a lot. I've been playing Lost Box for a while. I would definitely say it's really, really important, everyone knows, to know what your prize cards are with Lost Box, of course. If you can get that search off or get the heavy ball right away, just knowing what's in there changes all your decisions for when you go for flower selecting. And that one flower selecting can ruin your game. That can be dire. So it's like knowing what's in there and deciding off of that really, really helps. And sequencing is huge with Lost Box. You need to make sure you do everything in the right sequencing, or you could fumble your attack for turn or lose the game in the process, So it's definitely, you need to put in a decent bit of time. You just gotta get the reps in with it to know when to make the right decisions. Because all the attackers are pretty simple, more or less. You kind of know what you're gonna use in which matchups once you played enough. I played Guardy first today, and I didn't put down a V. I just Sableye'd for the whole game, more or less. And you kept putting Manaphy down, so it's just Sableye as much as you can, and that's pretty much the tricks of Lost Box. Honestly, Sableye is a huge card for Lost Box.
Huge card.
Knowing where to put the damage counters is huge with that. Knowing for each matchup, you got to do it a certain way every time.
Right.
So yeah, honestly, knowing Sableye, knowing when to put down a V. Knowing when to use Force Seal Stone. You gotta sometimes feel like you gotta conserve it sometimes and just take the easier attack, and then save it for later, because the Iono's late game can really mess you up if you get rid of your Force Seal Stone. And especially in that T-Tar with the V-Guard, I don't have Choice Belt. I don't play Choice Belt right now. I took it out today, so I can't one-hit KO that. You know?
You would have had to rely on either Sableye, most likely Sableye, or some other way to at least get a little bit of ping damage onto there. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if it would have changed the game too much, but I don't think he actually drew off of his gift energy when I first killed that the second Lugia. I don't think he did, but that could have changed the game a lot. Maybe could have gotten the Iono, but that's player. That's just player making a incorrect, or just not knowing what was going on, So that happens, and it's fine.
Right, gameplay errors certainly happen, and we did not notice that until after the stream ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly things like that can impact the game. And, you know, as we saw
One or two more
with
cards.
right, so, sometimes one card is the difference between a win and a loss.
Exactly.
But Peyton, it was great to
of
have you
course.
back here. Thank you for your time, and
course.
Best of luck in the rest
Yeah.
of the rounds here today.
Yeah, hopefully you'll see me again on stream today, you know, for the final.
Welcome back to the Forge League Challenge. Here we have for round 3 our seniors finals with Lorelei on the right and Isaiah on the left. So our players are just getting set up here. Lorelei is piloting a spicy Gardevoir EX Drifloon deck, and Isaiah on the left here playing Miraidon EX.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see how this matchup is going to turn out. I especially got excited seeing the Gardevoir list. I love playing Gardevoir myself. It's my favorite deck in the format right now. There's some really interesting choices, seeing both Espeon VMAX as well as Enamorous V. So this deck is going to be trying to, seems like, just prevent your opponent's abilities from impacting those Drifloon that have the Bravery Charm attached to them, and that seems to be the main attacker, and looks like we're having things getting started.
Lorelei looks like she's starting with that Enamorous V there, and Isaiah starting with his best starter here, which is that Miraidon EX. He'll be able to use that tandem unit abilities to search through his deck and look for 2 basic lightning Pokemon. Looks like he's eyeing up that Mareep here. And I have to imagine he's probably going to find another Miraidon EX here if he can utilize another tandem unit ability.
Absolutely. Being able to chain those off is a very powerful combination, and getting that full bench on turn 1 without the use of Battle VIP Pass is probably one of the biggest selling points that Miraidon EX has to offer.
Absolutely. So, looks like Isaiah is eyeing down that Raikou V, however. He's got another Nest Ball in hand, so he can go get another Miraidon if he wants to and chooses to go for that Raikou, which it looks like he's going to do. So off that tandem unit, grabs Mareep and Raikou V, has Greninja in hand, which is going to be his great draw power in this deck, and then going to be able to utilize a Nest Ball here. Probably going to go find either another Miraidon, another Raikou, or another Mareep is my guess.
Starting with Enamorous V is not the ideal Pokemon that you want to be starting with, and seeing this now almost full bench here, I would imagine I would be a little bit nervous unless my hand was very powerful.
Yeah. Enamorous V really not doing much for Lorelei in this matchup, unfortunately. Definitely probably her worst starter here. But we'll see if she's able to play out of it. The nice thing is once she gets going with those Drifloons, she's going to be trading 2-for-1 prizes. And Isaiah, because he's only chosen to go for this one Regieleki V here, even if he were to get 2 out, he's never going to be able to one-shot a Gardevoir EX.
That is correct. So the prize trade certainly tends to be very much in favor of Gardevoir here, especially, as you mentioned, Tom, with the Drifloon variant. Electric Generator coming down, being able to hit
energy.
That is always a good feeling.
So these lightning energies from that Electric Generator, look at the top 5 cards of your deck and attach up to 2 lightning energy you find there to your benched lightning Pokemon in any way you like. So I would have to imagine we're going to see probably both of them, at least one of them, coming down onto that Raikou V. See Austin here in the chat, it is best of 1 tonight.
See where these energy go. Guessing probably to the Raikou, yep.
Alright, and we're going to see a concealed cards here, discarding that lightning energy from hand, drawing 2 cards, finding a Beach Court and an Ultra Ball. That Beach Court is going to be very good for Isaiah next turn, going to be able to free retreat out of that Miraidon EX, get into the Raikou. He's going to use it actually this turn to utilize that Fleet-Footed ability on the Raikou and draw himself an extra card.
I don't hate that by any means. Certainly, Gardevoir, of course, is known to play some hand disruption with copies of Iono especially. And the top deck seems to be a Bravery Charm, but we do see a VIP Pass in hand here.
Yeah, so Lorelei, with that VIP Pass, going to be able to start finding her bench Pokemon. I would imagine here, if she's got an energy in hand, she's probably going to be going to find, I guess... Lorelei does not play Radiant Greninja in this list. So no Radiant Greninja, so I have to believe she'll probably just go find 2 Ralts here.
She could opt potentially for a Mew as well, but I'm not sure being able to utilize the Beach Court to reduce the retreat cost of that Enamorous V
Yeah.
I'm not entirely certain if that is a 1 retreat or 2 retreat cost on the Enamorus, but if it's only a 1 retreat cost, I like the idea of grabbing a Mew here quite a bit.
Absolutely. And Lorelei does play that Mirage Step Curlia, so all she really needs to do on her next turn is get that Mirage Step Curlia out here. But Lorelei, worried about some bench damage potential, chooses to bring down that Manaphy, but we do know that Isaiah on his side here not playing that Magnezone V-Star, so we're not going to be seeing any bench damage. But maybe that Manaphy is going to be like a good free prize to give up later if she can get out of this Enamorus V, and instead of letting Isaiah take a 2-prize knockout, she can just give up that Manaphy. We see an Arven here as well, so Lorelei will be able to go find another Battle VIP pass. And I believe that's also a Fog Crystal in hand. So she does have a few options here. She could go find a tool card with that Arven, which I believe all of her tool cards in this list are those Bravery Charms. It doesn't look like she has any Force Seal Stones in here, although that would be a very good card for her to find here if she had it. They're going to be able to find another VIP pass and probably a Bravery Charm. I think all of her Bravery Charms are actually already in her hand, so probably just that Battle VIP pass off of this Arven. Gonna go find her 2 more Ralts, I would guess.
Yeah, probably 2 more Ralts. Looks like maybe she's eyeing the Espeon though.
I think Lorelei here, that may be a mistake if she chooses to bench that Espeon. You definitely don't want to bring any of these multi-prizers into play. You just want to play that 1-prize game against this Miraidon list. And Isaiah's gotten a great setup, so Lorelei needs to focus on getting those Ralts down, getting Curlias into play, start drawing more cards on her next turn.
Absolutely. Another consideration potentially for Lorelei is to intentionally not fill her bench to the point where a Raikou could take a 1-hit knockout on this Enamorus V. We'll see if she is choosing to play around that or not.
Now, the funny thing too is Lorelei could use those Bravery Charms to attach to that Enamorus V and give it more HP, meaning that this Raikou would not be able to take knockout unless Isaiah could power up multiple Regieleki VMAXs, and he's only got 1 V in play, so I don't think that's going to be a concern.
That is a good point, Tom. I did completely forget about the Bravery Charm. That 50 HP boost is very significant.
So, looks like Lorelei chooses to go with the Ralts here and the Espeon. We'll have to see what she's able to piece together here. Now, the funny thing is that Espeon does have some pretty good damage output against a Miraidon. When it has 3 energy attached, the Espeon has 3 energy attached. It's definitely going to be 1-hit KOing those Miraidons. And we're going to see an energy come down here onto that Espeon. Tough hand here for Lorelei. No way to find a Curlia next turn. No way to find... no supporters in hand. And I think she's going to be living off the top deck on this next turn. I think I would have liked to see if that Enamorus does just have a 1 or 2 retreat cost, if she could have used that Fog Crystal to go find a Mew and start using that Mew to find more cards like Level Balls to get those Curlias out. But
I agree.
We'll see what she's able to do on her next turn. Isaiah here, though, is probably going to be able to take a KO on this Enamorus if he's able to find another electricity generator to power up that bench Miraidon EX.
That's right, and with that bench there, we should have a knockout with Raikou, since the Bravery Charm ended up not being attached to the active. Unfortunately, that probably is going to be a little bit of a mistake here from Lorelei. Drawing 1 off of Fleet-Footed.
I believe that Enamorus V has 210 HP, so Isaiah is going to have to evolve this Regieleki V into the VMAX to be able to take this KO with Raikou.
Thank you for double checking that.
But I believe that Isaiah has an Ultra Ball in hand, so he will be able to get that VMAX. So I think we are going to see Isaiah taking 2 prizes this turn. Utilizing that Flaffy's ability to attach an energy to that Miraidon, and Isaiah is a very strong board state here, and knowing what's in Lorelei's hand, she's going to have a miracle happen here off this top deck to stay in this game. And Isaiah actually choosing to chase down this Espeon V, which I think is the right move here. He's going to be able to take this KO. I believe because Espeon V only has 200 HP instead of the 210 that Enamorus has. So Lorelei gonna promote that Ralts here. Now one thing Lorelei could do is utilize Memory Skip potentially to make it that so that Raikou V can't attack on its next turn with that Lightning Rondo attack, but Isaiah will just be able to retreat into that Miraidon and attack anyway. And I believe the top deck for Lorelei here was a Boss's Orders, unfortunately, so not the card she needs to keep herself in the game here.
She can, of course, she can use that Fog Crystal, maybe try and get that Mew down. The Ralts will have free retreat right now.
Yeah, I think that's her best play here, is to go find that Mew, retreat into it, and start finding some level balls, but it looks like we're just going for a Psychic Energy here off of that Fog Crystal. I have to wonder, did Lorelei prize multiple Ralts? Because she's only gotten 2 Ralts after having all those VIP pass early here. Now choosing to get a Psychic Energy off of this Fog Crystal, I have to think that maybe 2 Ralts are prized.
Looks like committing to the Memory Skip option here. Interestingly enough, the 10 damage on the Raikou V is relevant math. Being able to set up a knockout with a Gardevoir EX in the future. However, we still have no Kirlia in play, which is not what you want to see as the Gardevoir player.
Lorelei definitely in a tough spot here. I think one of the things she can do is retreat into this Enamorus, utilize that Bravery Charm, and try to let it tank a hit. But Isaiah is going to be able to power up or evolve those Regieleki Vs into VMAXs on his next turn, and would be able to one-shot, I think, even through that Bravery Charm with the Miraidon EX. And Lorelei just utilizing that Memory Skip attack on the Ralts here, putting 10 damage counters on that Raikou V and saying that Lightning Rondo cannot be used on Isaiah's turn here.
3-footed for 1. See an escape rope.
Isaiah in a very good position, still has that Beach Court in play, has an energy and discard to be able to attach with that Flaffy's Dynamotor ability, and
The
has
Ultra Ball option as well.
the Ultra Ball in hand as well. And an energy in hand to draw more cards with that Radiant Greninja, which we're going to see him do, and draws into a Forest Seal Stone. So he still has that V-Star power option. Lightning Energy in hand can come down onto either the Miraidon or one of the Regielekis. And we're going to see that Ultra Ball away the Miraidon and probably that Nest Ball. I guess
See the Beach Court going
Isaiah
away.
choosing to get rid of that Beach Court. I think I would have liked to see him get rid of the Nest Ball here. Thins that card out of the hand that's not really usable for him. And the Miraidon EXs are acting as a Nest Ball already for him for the most part anyway. So
Right.
he doesn't really need those anymore.
I believe the only non-lightning type Pokemon in his list is that Radiant Greninja, which, as we know, is already in play.
Yeah. So, but we see Isaiah getting that Regieleki VMAX into play. All he has to do is Dynamotor onto that Miraidon, retreat into it with that Beach Court, and attack into this Ralts. And Isaiah's going to be going down to 3 prize cards remaining. He even has his own Bravery Charm to attach to that Miraidon.
And that 240 damage is certainly going to be enough for a KO on this Ralts.
So we're going to see this Forest Seal Stone activated by Isaiah, allowing him to search his deck for a card. I think we're going to see a Boss's Orders onto this Enamorus.
Oh, yep, we see it. He just played. Yep, that is certainly going to... I completely... I'm sitting right here watching this all happen, forgetting that the Forest Seal Stone, of course, is attached to that Regieleki VMAX, and this Boss's Orders is going to hit hard.
Yeah, so Isaiah able to take another 2 prize cards on this turn, putting himself in a very good position to win this game, and Lorelei still struggling with that hand, probably sitting there hoping that Isaiah would Iono her.
That is probably the case, and Isaiah says, no, I think I'll search my deck for any one card named Boss's Orders.
Lorelei did find this Kirlia here, though, so she can draw 2 more cards on this turn. I think she'll probably be refinementing away that Bravery Charm, or maybe the Super Rod, as she doesn't really need to Super Rod anything back right now. But she's going to have to be digging through this deck, potentially find a rare candy into a Gardevoir to be able to attack this turn.
I was going to say, I think I think the exact cards you want to see in this situation are Rare Candy, Guardy EX, but there is the Professor's Research. Certainly an option.
So I
Probably
think-
going to have to rip it.
Yeah, so I think probably attach the Psychic Energy to the active, and then research, hoping you can find Rare Candy, Gardevoir EX, and start attacking. But even then, it's just in such a good board state right now.
It would be definitely very surprising if Lorelei was able to come back from this, but we have seen some strange things before, and so it's sometimes not can't always call things until the very end, but I would definitely agree. I think Isaiah is certainly in a very commanding position right now.
Lorelei looks like choosing to Super Rod that Espeon back into the deck. Looks like that's a card that she wants to keep. I'm not sure about that call, though. Personally, I think that Espeon VMAX isn't really something that she wants to play in this matchup. One of the things that she just needs to do is keep that deck thinned down, not have a lot of cards that she doesn't want to see in it, because she needs to rip Rare Candy, Guardy EX off of this research to stay in the game here. And one of the things, though, that Lorelei can potentially just hold on to is the fact that Isaiah doesn't have a lot of draw power. So this late in the game, when he only has 2 prize cards remaining, her Ionos, once she finds them, are going to hit pretty hard.
That is certainly true.
And
looks like that
playing that
research.
Professor's Research.
Opting not to attach the energy, and I can certainly understand that. I don't necessarily hate that option. Hoping to find that Rare Candy into Gardevoir.
There's all her supporters she was hoping to find earlier. There's the Curlia, but no Rare Candy, no Guardy EX. I think she's just going to be forced. I would have liked to see a retreat into that Manaphy here before she evolved to that Curlia. You don't want to give up this Curlia against this Miraidon, and she does find the Shining Arcana Guardy, but at this point her best out was finding that Rare Candy Gardevoir EX, and unfortunately she missed it, and I think that's just, she's just not going to have enough now to finish out this game.
I would agree, Tom. It does seem like things are, unfortunately, probably dead in the water. She is considering any final options, but does opt to just pass turn, unfortunately.
So Isaiah here can retreat out of this Miraidon EX and attack with the Raikou V on this turn. Trekking Shoes, discarding that Raikou V, drawing the next card. It's an Electric Energy. He's going to be able to utilize concealed cards to draw another 2 cards here. Looks like another Lightning Energy, and I believe that's an Arven. But not too much Isaiah needs here. He just needs to retreat and attack. And I think that's just going to be game over the course of the next 2 turns here for Isaiah.
Absolutely. This certainly can be a very interesting matchup, and unfortunately, Lorelei was not able to get set up in the way that she was hoping to.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with decks like Gardevoir EX, that can be one of the big kryptonites of the deck. You know?
Yeah.
If you don't find what you need right away, you don't have ways to evolve into those Curlias, or you don't find a powerful supporter, sometimes that is all there is to say in the match. You just have to keep saying, I hope I top deck something.
And the painful thing too is if Lorelei had just been able to top deck that Professor's Research a turn earlier, she might still be in this game. But lots of supporter cards in hand for Lorelei. She does have the Iono. She can Iono Isaiah to 1, potentially find that Gardevoir EX and begin attacking. And she will take a KO on this Raikou because of that 10 damage set up by that Memory Skip Ralts.
That is definitely true. Getting rid of that damage pump for 2 fresh cards.
She got a level ball in hand. I think, though, that she did prize 2 Ralts. We are guessing, given some of the choices she'd made so far through this game, but she has level ball Fog Crystal. If there are any Ralts in that deck, she's going to be able to go find them. Choosing to evolve into the Shining Arcana Gardevoir, though, and that's just going to be game due to that choice, because there's no way for her to attack now this turn.
That's correct, unless she gets real, or she just used Shining Arcana.
Yeah,
didn't she? Yep.
so not going to be able to piece together an attack here on this turn, and Isaiah's just going to be able to take game with his next attack.
Seeing, the Raikou, the Regieleki VMAX, certainly choosing for the Reggielecki player, Isaiah choosing not to go for the Magnezone, certainly, he does not include that in his deck list. That is oftentimes a popular choice, especially in this matchup.
Yeah.
Being able to utilize Magnezone, V-Star's V-Star ability for double 90 knockouts on some Kirlias is nice, but turns out wouldn't have even needed it in this situation.
So Lorelei is going to be Ionoing Isaiah down to 1 card in hand and getting herself a fresh 6 cards. I think it's going to just add insult to injury here. She does find a way to get that Gardevoir EX out in this hand, but I mean, even after that Shiny Arcana, still not finding the Gardevoir EX. So despite the fact that she evolved and maybe shouldn't have, she didn't find the Gardevoir EX anyway. So just an unfortunate turn of events here for Lorelei. Wasn't quite able to draw the right hands, and sometimes that's the way things go. The variance can hit you in a card game, and there's not much you can do about it.
Absolutely.
Isaiah drawing for turn here and just going to take that KO on the Gardevoir to take his last prize. So an unfortunate start for Lorelei. It looks like there was a Gardevoir EX prized. She only plays 2, so definitely a tough turn of events there for Lorelei. But would have loved to see those Drifloons pop off for sure.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations, Isaiah. That was a good win and way to take down the seniors here at this league challenge here tonight.
Absolutely. So that is round 3. That's the end of the seniors. So Isaiah is our senior champion here at the league challenge tonight, and we will return shortly with a winner's interview with Isaiah, and then on to round 4 of the Masters division.
Absolutely.
Stay tuned.
And we are back here with Isaiah here in the studio. Congratulations on your win and your takedown of the seniors division here at the Forges League Challenge here tonight. How you doing? How you feel?
I'm feeling pretty great. It's exciting to always get the win.
Absolutely. 15 championship points always feels good. Being able to take the win is always good. And unfortunately, your opponent wasn't able to quite get set up, but sometimes that as we know, is how the game ends up going. Sometimes you draw into the right cards, and other times you don't. But congratulations on that win. And how long have you been playing the Regieleki and Miraidon deck?
Yeah, thank you for your congratulations. I've been playing the Regieleki Miraidon deck ever since Scarlet Violet released. I saw the Miraidon when it came out. I was like, I gotta play that card. It looks fun.
Has such a powerful ability, and I think its attack is quite powerful as well. Being able to do that massive burst of 220 damage for just those 3 energy, which, of course, being able to utilize those Flaffy and the Electro Charge, or I can't remember what that card is called for some reason.
Electric Generator.
Electric Generator, thank you. To be able to get those energies into play and start swinging really, really quickly, it certainly is able to provide a lot of pressure. Have you considered testing any with the Magnezone V-Star at all? Has that ever entered the deck list?
I've not considered that at all. No. The way I have it, it's kind of just been working for me.
Yeah.
If it stops working, I might mess with it, but as long as it keeps working, I think I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing.
No arguments there. You don't need to fix what isn't broken, as they say. How long have you been playing here?
I have been playing. That's a tough question. Probably. About when Lost Origin came out was probably
Okay.
when I started playing here.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, again, congratulations. It's great to have you back here in the studio. I know you've been back here at least one other time, so love to see that. And hope. Do you have any packs you'll be opening here from the win?
I think I do. Hoping to pull the Charizard.
Yeah, that Crystal Charizard is a beautiful card.
Yeah, we'll see though.
Yeah. Well, Isaiah, congratulations. Thanks for coming back.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome back to the League Challenge here tonight at the Forge. Going into round 4 for the Masters, we have Thomas on the right piloting Chien Pao, and Tim on the left here piloting Lost Giratina.
Absolutely. Lost Giratina, of course, a little bit of a controversial deck choice for that some people think. Many Giratina people tend to prefer playing it with the Arceus these days, but there has been some hype that has come around the Lost Tina variants of this deck. It'll be interesting to see how it's going to perform against Chien Pao, which is a deck that has been pretty hot recently.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Lost Tina is one of those decks where when it can get going, it's very powerful. Hitting for 280 every turn, using that Lost Impact attack and using Star Requiem once you have 10 cards in the Lost Zone to just take a knockout on anything. But unfortunately for Lost Tina, sometimes it has a tough time setting up, getting going, getting those Tina V-Stars into play, finding the Mirage Gates, all of those pieces. And Thomas on the right here playing that Chien Pao has a little bit of the same issues as this Lost Tina deck. If he has a slow start, Lost Tina can start picking off those Frigibacks, which Thomas needs to set up those Chien Paos and that Radiant Greninja to start taking KOs. So it's really going to come down to both players opening hands here. What kind of start can they have? Can they both find multiple VIP pass? And I do see a VIP pass in Thomas's hand there. So Thomas is going to have a good start here. We'll see what Tim is able to find on the left side here.
Prize cards going down, and the game is about to start. Fist bump.
So Thomas looks like he's going first, starts that Frigibacks, has the Battle VIP pass in hand, some energy, a Nest Ball. Not much more you can ask for here.
No. Thomas is definitely going to be drawing a couple of cards. He's going to be getting some Pokemon onto the bench that are going to obviously pay some huge dividends on a turn 2 play here. Potentially being able to use an Irida for a rare candy into Baxcalibur, putting immense pressure. Radiant Greninja, of course, being an absolute headache for Lost Tina to be able to deal with. They need those comfies in play, and sometimes it can be difficult to get those comfies and the Manaphy down at the same time, while also still making sure that you're getting set up as you need to.
Yeah. So it looks like Thomas choosing to retreat out of that Frigibacks into the Chien Pao EX here. Going to be able to utilize that Shivery Chill ability to search his deck for 2 basic water energy and put them into his hand. Then I imagine we'll see him shuffle up here and utilize that Radiant Greninja's Concealed Cards ability to draw 2 more cards. Now Thomas also has a Nest Ball in hand. The question is, does he go find another Frigibacks, or does he find a Manaphy to protect against that bench damage from Tim's Radiant Greninja? We'll have to see what he chooses to do here. Looks like he's eyeing up that Arceus V here. Now, that is certainly a safe option, I believe, because I don't think we're going to see Tim be able to boss KO that Frigibacks on this first turn of the game. But Thomas is going to want to get more than 1 Frigibacks down here soon before Tim's able to start using that Lost Mine attack on Sableye.
Absolutely. And those Frigibacks, of course, there is, of course, the 70 HP one, but most people are running the 60 HP ones, and that obviously is half of 12, and we know that that is the number that Sableye is able to dish out.
So it looks like off of that concealed cards here, Thomas did draw a Baxcalibur, and Thomas does have a rare candy already in hand. So he is going to have that rare candy Baxcalibur on the next turn here. Tim, though, also starting with a Battle VIP pass here, and depending on what his hand looks like, he's probably going to be looking for Manaphy, Radiant Greninja, Comfey. Those are the sorts of Pokemon he's going to want to start getting down here. Looks like he's eyeing up that Manaphy, but I think Tim does have to start drawing through his deck here. Depending on what his hand looks like, probably has to go for more of the Radiant Greninja Comfey way, start trying to draw more cards and get into that Colress, and ultimately hope to find another Battle VIP pass that you can utilize to get that Manaphy down.
Absolutely. Thomas, with such a strong start in his opening, we're going to need to see another very strong opening for this game to get underway without too much of a headache
Yeah.
potentially. So
One of the very scary things that Tim's going to be facing down next turn is the fact that Thomas got that Arceus V down as well. Utilizing that Arceus V Star's ability to draw or to grab whatever 2 cards Thomas needs is going to make it pretty easy for Thomas to find a cross switcher canceling Cologne play against Tim here on his next turn and be able to take 2 KOs with that Greninja, probably knocking out 2 Comfies.
you see the Colress come down.
Absolutely, and we see a
And-
Battle VIP pass off that Colress, 2 Giratina Vs and a Sableye. So I think we're going to have to see one of those Giratina Vs probably go to the Lost Zone, and I would guess that I would pick here a Giratina V and that Nest Ball to go to the Lost Zone, but we'll see what Tim ultimately decides on. I think you want to keep that Sableye around. Looks like that was his choice. So we see Nest Ball, Giratina V go to the Lost Zone. Tim's going to have that Battle VIP pass now to go find that Manaphy, and probably, I would guess, a Radiant Greninja.
Absolutely. Being able to just get so many Pokemon out of the deck with VIP, that card is certainly one of the best cards I think Pokemon has ever printed.
Yeah. Definitely one of the best search cards we've ever seen. Obviously can only be utilized on that first turn of the game, but a very powerful effect when you get it in that opening hand.
Absolutely. According to the math, you're only supposed to see a Battle VIP pass once in every other hand. There's about
Yeah.
a 41% chance, but decks like Lost Box and even Gardevoir make that percentage go up way higher than that 41% chance of just raw drawing into it and you're opening 8 cards
when you're
would
able
suggest.
to utilize that Comfy to draw extra cards, dig deeper into your deck, the Mew from Celebrations and the Gardevoir deck to be able to dig a little bit deeper, it's much easier to find those Battle VIP passes. And we see Tim even here digging with that Colress and finding the Battle VIP pass off of it. We now see an Escape Rope here, going to be able to get out of that Cramorant, go into a Comfy here, start getting those Flower Selectings off, and Tim ultimately looking to try to get to at least 4 in the Lost Zone here. But if Tim were to be able to stretch just a little bit further, maybe find a Lost Vacuum. I haven't checked the deck list to see if he's playing any of those, and it looks like he isn't. So that's not going to be an option here. But in a lot of these Lost Zones decks, you have this ability to utilize that Lost Vacuum, a couple of Comfies, get to 7 in the Lost Zone on your first turn and utilize that Radiant Greninja turn 1. But we're not going to see that from Tim here, but he will be able to utilize that Cramorant if he can just find a couple more switching outs. And it looks like he has the Jet Energy here, a new card from the Paldea Evolve set that you can attach to one of your bench Pokemon, bring it up into the active, and then utilize it to retreat out of this Comfy again into the Cramorant. So Tim here going to be able to get this Comfy into the active, utilize that Flower Selecting ability, send a Cross Switcher to the Lost Zone, and then retreat out of it and get some damage set up on that Arceus V with this Cramorant Spit Innocently attack.
Absolutely. And honestly, regardless of what the target is spitting into, this damage is going to be relevant here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that Thomas has to do now is ensure that he can get this Arceus evolved and out of that active position. Otherwise, another Spit Innocently just takes 2 prizes on this Arceus V. But Thomas does have a good hand. We know that he already had the rare candy, Baxcalibur. And the question is he going to be able to find an Ultra Ball to get into that Arceus V Star and start drawing more cards? Now, he can draw cards with this concealed cards, as he does have Water Energy in hand, so he can utilize that Greninja to see a couple more cards, and we'll see what Thomas decides to do here. I think he's contemplating using those 2 Water Energies to retreat out of this Arceus, as he does have a Superior Energy Retrieval already in hand. So he can retreat out of that Arceus, go into the Chiampao, use Shivery Chill, find 2 more basic energies from his deck, then utilize concealed cards, and just thinning that deck. And we see Thomas using these order of operations, playing this deck optimally, finding the best routes to draw the best cards he can off of these abilities.
Absolutely. Especially in decks like this where you need to be able to rely on that Greninja to draw you into what you need to see. This is a very strong play we see here from Thomas, so definitely love to see it.
Absolutely. So we'll see. There's no doubt that he's going to be able to take a KO here. It just depends on, can he get to that cross switcher canceling Cologne play and take out Tim's Comfies, which would really set Tim on the back foot here, or is he just going to be able to take a KO on this Cramorant with the Chiampao EX here?
Absolutely. We'll see what these 2 cards are able to draw. And there's that Greninja going down. Drawing into, looks like Lumineon and Ultra Ball, so we do have the Arceus V-Star option, assuming that it is not prized. That, of course, can get this game moving quite efficiently. Contemplating whether he's going to be benching that Lumineon potentially for an Irida, I would assume.
Or do we see a boss's orders come down? Potentially.
Oh, I could see that as well.
I guess he does need the switch out, so the Irida finds him a cross switcher, and I think he might already have a cross switcher in hand as well. So we may be seeing this canceling cologne play come down already on the second turn of the game, which is just an insanely powerful move here for Thomas.
He's just double checking his resources, making sure that the play he wants to be able to make is in fact possible. There are a lot of moving pieces with some of these decks.
So off that Lumineon, he finds Irida. Off the Irida, it looks like he's eyeing up a Frigibax and a canceling cologne. And I think when you see them grab the canceling cologne as Tim, you know that they just must have that play all ready to go. We know Thomas does have that play ready to go here because he does have access to that Arceus V-Star Starbirth V-Star power here with that Ultra Ball in hand. He's already got the double cross switcher too. He honestly doesn't even need to use the V-Star power yet. He's got the superior energy retrieval in hand. He's going to be able to get the energy to power up that Greninja, and he's got the double cross switcher already going. You hate to see it. This is going to put Tim in a really tough position here, taking his consistency, his draw power off the board.
Absolutely. Going down 2 prizes immediately on the second turn of the game, especially against a deck that has some really powerful options to be able to take those one-hit knockouts on the Giratinas, feels just terrible here. And Tim is going to need to scramble to find some answers here. Honestly, trying to potentially get a boss knockout on the Arceus may be pretty good if he can find that. He still has access to that Cramorant that's on the bench. Is he going to be able to get there? We did see that he had to get rid of one of his cross switchers into the Lost Zone already, though. That may not be good news here.
Yeah, Tim in a tough spot here. No Manaphy on the board for Thomas, so he could potentially find himself using that Radiant Greninja's attack, but really, what are you targeting down here? You could KO that Frigibax, maybe set up some damage on the Baxcalibur for later with Sableye. And if you do start to get those Baxcaliburs off the board, because Chien-Pao has to discard energy with its attacks, you do get to the point where, you know, Chien-Pao just can't attack if all those Baxcaliburs are gone. And you start having to manually power up, and that could buy Tim some time. So maybe we do see Tim go in with this Radiant Greninja if he can piece together that attack here. He will have 6 in the Lost Zone after this Colress, and it looks like he does have another Comfey in that hand that he's going to take off of the Colress. So he can get to 7. The question is, does he have the Mirage Gates necessary to power up that Greninja?
Looks like that may have even been too comfy.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think that was too comfy. So does Tim have the switch outs here that he needs? Gonna bench that Giratina V. He's got some energy in hand, so he could at least hard retreat out of this Manaphy. Make sure that another canceling clone doesn't come down on the next turn onto that Manaphy. But knowing that Thomas has access to that Arceus V-Star on his next turn, you have to ask the question, is he going to be able to just pull off another canceling cologne? We know that Thomas does play 2 canceling cologne in his list. And if one of them's not prized, we could just easily see another 2 prizes come down from Thomas.
Flower selecting.
Tough choice here for Tim. It's going to be a Mirage Gate. He needs that Mirage Gate. There's also a Colress, and he needs a Colress. What does he choose to give up here? Looks like it's going to be the Mirage Gate, so although I couldn't quite see his hand, it must mean that he's already got one in that hand.
Making sure he's got that Colress for the next turn certainly can help. It's unfortunate that he has already played his supporter for turn. Right now, he could certainly benefit from having some more dig options here. And we do see just,
like
a pass.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. If Thomas is able to piece together a couple of things that he needs, we could see another cross switcher canceling clone play here, and we see the retreat out of that Greninja into the Chien-Pao EX, using that Shivery Chill ability to thin out that deck, grab 2 basic water energies, And Thomas is going to be having a pretty good turn here. Even if he doesn't get the Canceling Cologne playoff, even if he just takes a KO on this Comfey, he's going to go down to 3 prize cards remaining while Tim's still at 6.
Absolutely. And I did see in Thomas's hand, it does appear that there is a Pokestop, and so he can always click the button. And oftentimes that card just reads draw 3.
Yeah, if you, especially with these lists that play a lot of item cards, like the Chien-Pao list, you know, that Pokestop is very powerful. But we see the concealed cards here. Looks like an Irida and Manaphy off that with the Ultra Ball and the Irida. You have to think that he's going to be able to pull off this Canceling Cologne play again. Looks like he's going for that Arceus V-Star. He's going to be able to utilize Starbirth. And the funny thing is here for Tim, Giratina does play a lot of Path to the Peak, but Tim not able to find those. And so Thomas is just going to have easy access to this Starbirth ability. Path to the Peak also a very strong card against Chien-Pao. I think that was one of Tim's best hopes against this deck, was to Path to the Peak against Chien-Pao early, but he wasn't able to quite get there. And we do see Thomas utilize that. Thomas is still at 4 prize cards, but he's going to probably take 2 on this turn. We see him utilize that Starbirth ability to find a boss's orders, and I believe a Superior Energy Retrieval. And I guess the question is, I think Thomas is thinking, I don't need to Canceling Cologne here. I can just boss's orders up that Giratina V and take a KO for 2 prizes on that. And we see him rip that Pokestop, gets a Battle VIP Pass, another Ultra Ball. Not a bad turn here for Thomas either way.
Right, certainly a number of powerful options here on the table. And looks like he's considering what he thinks the best route is going to be. Sometimes it does just take a couple of seconds to process through. Although it does seem like he is probably going to be going with that boss play, like you mentioned.
Yeah, I think so.
It seems like that is likely the best option unless I'm missing something.
Yeah, it's definitely, Giratina is the only Pokemon on Tim's board right now that can take a KO on this Chien-Pao. So taking care of that Giratina means this Chien-Pao is still going to be active and able to take another KO on the next turn. I know Thomas still has some more energy in hand. We'll see where he chooses to place that. Looks like 1 going down on the Lumineon. Still 2 left in hand. Does he choose to hold on to those? And it looks like he does. I think I might have chosen to attach 1 more there. You still have 1 then to utilize with the Radiant Greninja's ability. But Thomas just playing it safe there. He's up by a lot here. 4 prizes to 0 on Tim's side. And see what Tim is able to piece together.
Water Energy top deck. We do know, of course, he's got that Colress option. Opting for Greninja to start the turn off.
You see that Colress come down. A few easy decisions. It looks like already in that Colress to send to the Lost Zone, that Battle VIP Pass. I have to say probably that Jet Energy, maybe. It looks like he's going for the Nest Ball though, or the Colress. Okay. You know, some tough decisions that Tim has had to make here. He had to keep that Nest Ball because he needs to really get a Giratina V-Star going. But at this point in the game, it might just be too late. I did see that Thomas did already have Canceling Cologne in hand. And the boss's orders that we know he took off of the Starbirth, and given that Tim has played Colress for his turn, there's not going to be any disruption. So Thomas probably just going to be able to find those last 2 prizes on his next turn. But Tim's... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it's tough to be in the situation like Tim is in right now, having to make some really difficult choices, trying to think critically about what are the possible ways I can even win this game. Oftentimes, when you're in situations like this, you have to either stall for time or make some very desperate plays with low overall success rates. We do see the Sableye coming in.
So Tim going to be able to take a prize here if he chooses to KO that Frigibax, and I have to think that he's going to go after that Frigibax and the Baxcalibur and hope that he can deny Thomas's ability to start accelerating those energies into play.
Powerful option that unfortunately was not able to come to fruition, that would have been potentially a Roxanne or something like that, but unfortunately it just was not able to get there.
Yeah, and like we said earlier, that Path to the Peak that Giratina plays is a very strong card against this Chien-Pao deck, and Tim just hasn't been able to find those. And even if he was able to find those, he's gotta pair it with Disruption, and he wasn't able to find the Roxanne there. But I think a Roxanne Path on that turn would have been a lot to buy Tim some time. But he needed to Colress to get to 10 in the Lost Zone to be able to utilize Sableye there. So Tim just kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, and Thomas going to be able to draw more cards here and probably piece together that final attack that he needs to close out this game. We're going to see that Pokestop, and again, a great Pokestop, just such a strong card for this Chien-Pao. Finds that Nest Ball, finds the superior energy retrieval that Thomas needs to get all those energy back from the discard pile back to his hand. And I still see that, I believe, at least in Irida. I thought he had a boss's, or no, he utilized the boss's orders last turn on the Giratina. But this
correct.
Irida can find him another piece that he might need. We'll see if he's able to get those last two cross switchers. But if not, I think, you know, Tom is still in a very strong position. Going to be able to just power up 2 attackers and, you know, take those final KOs. I think one thing that he can do here is attack with that Chien-Pao to KO the Sableye, and also power up the Arceus V-Star, because either way, both of those attackers can KO anything on Tim's board basically at this point.
Right. It can be tempting in a situation like this to think, well, maybe I can utilize Luminion's attack here, get that card back into my deck, remove a liability off my board. But unfortunately, that just shuffles more energy back into the deck. And if Tim is able to make a play with that Roxanne or Path, then that could put Thomas in a really difficult situation that he honestly may not be able to get out of. So I do agree with you. I think being able to power up the Arceus, in addition to taking that knockout with the Chien-Pao, seems like a really good option if he can make it happen.
Thomas just trying to decide what to take off of this Irida. There's not much that he needs. It looks like he's just probably going to thin the deck with it. That Lost Vacuum can be utilized to get rid of that Pokestop, so it's not helping out Tim on his next turn. And just grabbing that Chien-Pao to thin out his deck. I don't think there's like a lot of water Pokemon left in that deck for Thomas to grab off that Irida, so just really thinning it out. I wouldn't even be surprised to see that Lost Vacuum get rid of that Chien-Pao.
Right.
Unless he's got a Battle VIP Pass. That's another great card to thin out. And we could see that Chien-Pao come down onto the bench. Thomas has some bench space here. In case somehow this other Chien-Pao goes down on the next turn, he's still able to use that Shivery Chill ability. We see Thomas, wow, getting to do the double Pokestop here. Because of that last Pokestop was in play at the start of this turn. Lost Vacuums it away and plays another Pokestop into play. So able to get 6 cards off the Pokestop. What a crazy play there for Thomas.
Wild play. Thomas just doing an excellent job here at showcasing why there's been so much hype surrounding this particular version of the Chien-Pao deck. You can just make things happen sometimes so effortlessly. As the opponent, sometimes it can just feel like there is nothing that can be done. Being able to so consistently get the canceling Cologne play off with the Radiant Greninja, and also, of course, the immense unlimited damage cap that you have with Chien-Pao makes short work of quite a few decks when it's able to get what it needs and get set up in the beginning.
So I think the best thing for Thomas to do here is just to get these energies out of the discard pile with that superior energy retrieval and just attach them all to this Chien-Pao so it's ready to attack next turn. There's nothing on Tim's board that can one-shot this Chien-Pao, and you definitely don't want to see a Roxanne here if you're Thomas, because you did all this work to get these energies back and you don't want to see him shuffled back into the deck. We do see him, however, just choose to... This is crazy. He's going for that final cross switcher. Can he get it off of this Mew? And he does.
He finds it.
Thomas able to piece together this double cross switcher, canceling Cologne play again, utilizing 2 Pokestops, retreating into Mew. Crazy play here from Thomas to be able to go Radiant Greninja for 2, Chien-Pao for 2, back into Radiant Greninja for 2, and making this game only last 4 turns.
I cannot believe my eyes right now. We just saw one of the absolute craziest pushes that I have seen in any Pokemon game ever.
That was wild. I mean, and the thing too is that he didn't even need to push that hard for it. If he had just taken the KO on that Sableye with the Chien-Pao, he was still in a great position, but pushing further, because one of the scariest things for him is seeing that Roxanne path come down.
Right.
That could buy Tim enough time, crazy as it sounds, to piece together a play that can end the game ultimately in Tim's favor if he can just lock up what Thomas is trying to do. So Thomas continues to push. Pokestop, Mew finds the Cross Searcher, has the Canceling Cologne in hand, and able to put together that Moonlight Shuriken attack to take the final 2 prizes.
Absolutely wild. That was just an unbelievable game. I'm just in shock. I've just never seen anything quite like it before. That was just wild.
I've never seen someone dig that card for a play, or dig that hard for a card to make that play. And unfortunate for Tim, but there's just not much you can do there if you're Tim. You hope you find that path on the early turns to shut down the draw power of the Chien-Pao deck. But you know that Thomas just had Pokestop in hand for the majority of the game. There's not a lot of things you can do to disrupt his Lost Tina early in the game, because you need to be playing those Colress to build up your Lost Zone.
Exactly. It's just, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place oftentimes. And yeah, it's tough. Sometimes you just have to watch it happen.
Yeah. You just got to sit there and let it happen to you, and just Moonlight Shuriken, Hailblade, Moonlight Shuriken game.
Absolutely.
Absolutely crazy. Well, we'll be back here in just a few moments with the winner's interview with Thomas and get to ask him a few questions about that crazy play and that super cool Chien-Pao deck he was able to pilot to 4-0 here tonight at the League Challenge. Stay tuned.
And we are back, and we have Thomas here in the studio with us, just pulling off one of the most absolutely ludicrous games I have ever seen in the game of Pokemon. Thomas, how does it feel to be 4-0 right now?
Well, it's pretty nice to be 4-0 in a challenge. You're at least guaranteed top 4, hopefully. Fingers crossed. But, yeah, I drew pretty broken that game. Got to Greninja twice with Manaphy in play, so that's always a good feeling.
Absolutely. Yeah. Me and Tom, we were back here watching the game, and at first when you retreated into Manaphy, we were like, what exactly is he doing? And then, of course...
To Mew?
Yeah, or sorry, into the Mew, yes, not the Manaphy. And
so I can talk through that. So I had a backup plan. So before I decided to go for the vacuum Pokestop to get 2 Pokestop plays, I guess I still had the backup depending on what I hit on the Pokestop, but I knew I had the superior off the first Pokestop, so I knew I had 4 energies. I had 1 in hand, so I had 5 energies to work with. I was potentially going to attach 2 to the Chien-Pao, put 2 because I already had 1 on the Lumineon V, and then just Aqua Return, killing the Sableye, putting 3 more energy back in the deck so Chien-Pao's active, and then promote like the Frigivax just to have a 1 retreater, and then I can 1 retreat into the Chien-Pao, and unless he just sat up Greninja up there, I can kill anything with 2 energy that was in play. So yeah, so that was my backup plan, and then I saw the opportunity. I think I had 9 cards left in deck, so I just went for the Mew play. I figured he had 6 prizes to take. I knew I was going to lose my hand the next turn from a Roxanne or an Iona, so I just figured let's go for broken, and if I have to, play the draw pass game with that few cards in deck, I was kind of okay with that. Unless if he Roxanne passed me, there was a good chance I could lose that game. But I also just wanted to end that turn. So
well, and certainly being mindful of the Roxanne path play, definitely that absolutely you're right. Sometimes that comes down and you have to pass 2 or 3 turns in a row because you just don't find what you need. Especially running the Arceus variant, of Chien-Pao, you're not seeing many cards at each turn if you don't have access to Radiant Greninja.
I don't play Bibarel, so I don't have the comeback potential off of that. And if you do play Bibarel in that matchup, he would have just targeted down the Bibarel instead of
Right,
the Frigibacks that last turn. But
Absolutely. So has Chien Pao been on your mind quite a bit recently, or did you have you been playing this for a couple of weeks?
It's been like probably like 2 or 3 weeks. I've played it. I've been playing Lugia for a lot of the format. So this format I didn't really know what to play. I was toying around with still playing single strike Lugia, and then I had built the colorless version. See how that went, and it was all right. But I ended up losing to Cody's Chien Pao at a super small local. I think we were the only masters that were playing. And then I was just like, that's a fun deck, and I like the Pokestops. I like playing a deck that plays VIP Pass that bricks a lot less than Lugia. So
Absolutely.
one of the main reasons was like you can kill anything. You just need enough energy, and so that's one of the big things that attracted me to that deck.
Absolutely. Well, Thomas, thank you so much for joining us back here and answering some questions. Good luck in your next round, and best of luck here.
Thank you.
Welcome back to round 5 at the Forge League Challenge tonight. We have Jake on the left, Joe on the right. Jake piloting Gardevoir EX and Joe playing Turbo Lost Box.
Absolutely. Once again, we have a matchup here that has been very well played out over the last 2 formats. Of course, Iono being a huge boon for Gardevoir and being able to make this matchup a little bit closer to 50-50, but as we know, this is still a challenging matchup for Gardevoir, and Sableye doing what Sableye is known for doing.
Yeah.
Just taking tons of prize cards against those vulnerable lower HP Pokemon.
Yeah, definitely a tough matchup for Gardevoir if they don't get set up quickly, and kind of the same thing for Lost Box. If Gardevoir gets going fast and Lost Box has a slow start, Gardevoir can start utilizing that Cresselia, picking off key targets on the other side of the field and taking damage counters off of its bench Pokemon. So excited to see how these players play this out here. Both players here 3-1. Our 4-0 table decided to ID and just risk it to see who wins off of resistance in tonight's league challenge. So we have our players here playing for 3rd place at 3-1. So both of them will be in the top 4 regardless of the league challenge and get the same amount of points. Most likely, although I'm not quite sure where 3-2 will fall into the bracket. They may end up in top 8 points instead of top 4 points. So
Yeah.
one of these players, however, will end up in top 4 and get those sweet championship points on their way to Worlds next year, wherever it might be.
Absolutely. Yep. And of course, here in the North America region, having to get to 600, every single point that you can squeeze out of these events can make a difference.
Absolutely.
And the dice gets rolled after our players are getting shuffled up.
One interesting thing here in Joe's list, which isn't probably going to come up in this matchup, but Joe is choosing to play the Gallade V, the fighting type Gallade V, in his Lost Box list. And I imagine that's a card that's in there to counter those Arceus V-Star decks, but not going to be doing a lot here against Jake's Gardevoir deck, and definitely not a card you want to start in this matchup.
No, especially since that Gallade is psychic weak. Even a Cresselia doing just the 110 damage with its 2nd attack, that's a knockout.
Yeah.
So, man, if we see a Gallade start here, that is going to be very, very difficult to get out of. But, you know, both of these decks do have some unfortunate starters typically.
Yeah.
We may
Jake?
see Luminion as a start.
Yeah.
We may see even Manaphy as a start. You don't really want to see because it can be vulnerable to the Cramorant KO
Yeah.
early if you can't get much going on.
Yeah, Jake on the other side, obviously with that Gardevoir, can have his own bad starters and some bad prize cards if you can't get that Manaphy out or it's prized. And that Greninja can do a lot of damage on Joe's side of the field, but we see our players drawing their opening hands here, and it looks like Jake's already got a couple of Ralts in hand and that Manaphy, so not a bad start for him. He would probably like to see a supporter, is not something that he sees here, but we see Joe take a mulligan here, so Jake is going to be able to draw an extra card at the start of this game.
Absolutely. And Joe probably pretty happy that he mulliganed with that hand. Not a lot of options that would have been
Absolutely.
available to him. Certainly no VIP pass, which is what you obviously want to see, but really there was no way to have anything other than whatever he was going to start with unless he got a good top deck there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we see, I think, a Manaphy, a Ralts, and a Shining Arcana Gardevoir in Jake's hand. So not a lot to work with there. Not a bad start. Gets that Manaphy out, has a couple of Ralts, but definitely he's going to need to see a couple more cards to piece this opening hand together. Joe on the other side here just shuffling up for his second try here. We'll see if he can find a basic. So 7 cards here for Joe. Looks like we do have a basic starting that Comfey. Pretty good starting hand here for Joe. It looks like multiple Comfey, Radiant Greninja, and I believe a few switching cards. And Jake able to draw a card off of that mulligan. Looks like it was an Ultra Ball, so can maybe find Radiant Greninja to draw a couple more cards, or potentially that Mew from Celebrations to retreat into and find another Battle VIP pass. So we see Jake going first here. Top decks a Psychic Energy. Pretty good top deck for him. He can utilize that Ultra Ball to go find Radiant Greninja, like we said, and discard one of those energies to draw 2 more cards, or use that energy to retreat out of the Ralts and go into a Celebrations Mew if that's what he chooses to find off this Ultra Ball. But we see him Ultra Ball away a Psychic Energy and that Shining Arcana Gardevoir and start taking a look here as to what is available in his deck. And it looks like he already is eyeing up that Mew from Celebrations.
Absolutely. It can be tempting to want to hang on to a card like that Gardevoir in the beginning, but realistically, it is pretty difficult to get that card into play during the first 2 turns of the game. And if you are able to get a rare candy play off, usually in the EX into play is the better option anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that we see on Joe's side of the field is I don't believe that he's playing the Drapion V. So sometimes we see that Drapion V in these Lost Box decks and can be powered up by Mirage Gate to utilize that weakness on the Gardevoir EX. But Joe not going to be able to make that play here. So he's going to have to rely on Jake having a little bit slower start. And I don't think that's going to be the case here because Jake does find that Battle VIP pass off of the Celebrations Mew here, is able to play it. And I imagine we're going to just go see 2 Ralts come out here.
Double checking his hand to make sure he knows.
He has another Ralts in hand, so he could potentially go for Cresselia, Zacian V. But I think just getting all these Ralts out is a good idea. But choosing to go for that Greninja, obviously it allows him to draw more cards. Let's say on his next turn, he doesn't have a supporter in hand, and what if all he finds off of that Mew is a Fog Crystal? He can utilize that Fog Crystal, get an energy, concealed cards it away, draw 2 more. So
Absolutely.
Jake trying to just make sure that he's got some consistency on board to draw more cards next turn, make sure he stays in the game. Gonna bench that Ralts, bench that Manaphy, and not a bad start here for Jake as long as he can start finding some Kirlias next turn.
Absolutely.
Over to Joe's side of the field, and looks like he's got a pretty good start here as well.
Kicking things off with that Radiant Greninja. Being able to draw those 2 cards just makes such a huge difference, especially, I think, for these Lost Box decks. You just end up seeing so many cards off of between the Comfies and the Radiant Greninja. And also, in some cases, the discard pile for Lost Box can even feel a little bit like a hand.
Yeah, absolutely. So we see Joe using 1 flower selecting, using a switch cart, going into a 2nd flower selecting here. getting rid of that nest ball because he found a Battle VIP pass, which is definitely the way he wants to go here. Finding another Comfey, and I have to imagine we're probably going to see a Cramorant or potentially a Sableye come down here as that second Pokemon. Unless he's got a Force Seal Stone, which I didn't see in hand, but you could always go for a V here to utilize Force Seal Stone and find a Colress, which I think is just the next piece that he needs here. I don't think he's got a Colress in that hand. Normally we would see that Colress played before you start flower selecting with those Comfeys. And given that he didn't do that, I have to imagine that's something that he's digging for here.
Looks like he's finding what Pokemon are available to him, trying to make that decision. Probably not too risky to bench one of these yet.
He just failed.
Is he failing it?
I think he just failed it. I think definitely at least you probably want to find Sableye there, make sure that it's out of the deck, because Jake is going to start wanting to Iona you later, and you want to just make sure you have those attackers out on your field. But Joe decided to fail the second half of that Battle VIP pass, only grabbing that Comfey out of here, and we'll see what he's able to piece together. If nothing else, you want to thin the deck of that one extra card to make it more likely that you'll find a Colress. But
Right. I'm not sure if I agree with that decision there, but of course, as the game plays out, we'll have to see what the ramifications of choosing to fail that VIP pass might end up being.
Jake sending out that Manaphy off of the escape rope, and that's kind of a bold move here, I think. Joe flower selecting, getting rid of that Sky Seal Stone. That's not going to do anything for him in this matchup. Finds another switch card, and even if he had grabbed a fourth Comfey off of that Battle VIP pass, he now has another switching card to dig a little bit deeper, but not going to be able to do that now. And kind of a slow start actually for Joe, which is going to give Jake a bit of a sigh of relief here. Now Jake has a rare candy off that top deck, but nothing to evolve really here, and he's going to need to find a way to get back into that Mew. He didn't really love to see that escape rope there.
No,
although he is
energy.
happy that no Cramorants came out to spit onto that Manaphy, but I think we're just about to see a pass from Jake here. Just nothing in his hand that he can utilize, and it is a pass, and it looks like Joe must have top decked a Colress because he's playing it now, and looks like a Raihan, an Artisan, a Dragonite, a Water Energy, and let's see what else he chooses off of this. I think he's got to keep that energy. Raihan is something that he would maybe want to utilize later, and he already lost zone 1. He only plays 2, but choosing to get rid of that Dragonite, I think that's a fine decision. Dragonite can do some bigger damage into this matchup, maybe putting some big damage onto that Gardevoir EX, but it's a 2-prizer that you don't really necessarily want to attack with here.
Right.
Choosing to put out that Artisan, not really helping Jake with that Artisan because Jake already has a full bench. So Joe's going to be able to utilize that and maybe find a Sableye here. He's got multiple Lost Vacuums in hand, so there is a world in which Joe can get to 10 cards in the Lost Zone on this turn and start using Sableye. And if that's the case, that's going to be pretty scary for Jake because he has a 60 HP Ralts out and that 60 HP Mew out. That means Joe could potentially take 2 prizes here.
If he wanted to, it looks like he could guarantee the Sableye. Was that Nest Ball in hand along, or sorry, not the Nest Ball, the I unfortunately can't think of the card name. The Energy Acceleration.
The Mirage Gate, yes. He does have the Mirage Gate in hand. He could utilize that Artisan to go find the Sableye and then Lost Vacuum away the Artisan to start building up that Lost Zone.
Correct.
He also... Let's see, he's trying to decide what to do here. I think it's fair to just Lost Vacuum away that Gallade V. I don't think there's a world in which you ever want to bench that in this matchup. But did he utilize that Artisan ever?
He didn't.
I think we're seeing a misplay here
Another
from
interesting choice here.
Joe. I guess he doesn't necessarily need to use it because he does have the Nest Ball in hand, but you have it. Why not use it?
Right, that's kind
And
of what
Joe
I'm thinking too.
getting rid of this Nest Ball when he's got the Gallade in hand, and I don't see any reason to ever use that Gallade in this matchup. But choosing not to Lost Vacuum it away, but maybe he's just holding on to it. He's got a second Lost Vacuum in hand, so maybe just saying I'll get rid of it later. But certainly I think that would be a better decision than that Nest Ball there. We're going to see a switch cart into Manaphy. So he lost vacuumed away his Stadium. That could get him a basic, and Lost Vacuumed away the other card that could get him a basic. I think that's got to be an accident, or just, certainly not what Joe necessarily wanted to do, because I don't know what he's attacking with here now. He had the opportunity to maybe get into a Sableye, and now he can cram, but certainly that's not the play that you want to see.
No, it would have been a lot more efficient to be able to utilize Sableye there, but
So it looks like this Cramorant can use that Spit Innocently attack, take the KO on the Manaphy, and Joe goes down to 5 prize cards remaining. But Jake now able to put that Mew into the active and maybe able to piece some things together. Top decks an Iono, which is going to be great for him. Going to be able to Super Rod back that Manaphy, and then Iono, draw 6 new cards, start to find those Kirlias, maybe a rare Candy Guardian, begin to attack this turn. And Joe had an opportunity there. If he could dig a little bit further for that Sableye play, he could have taken out this Mew and a Ralts and left that Manaphy in the active where Jake didn't really want it.
right. Definitely some interesting choices here being made, and there goes that Iono. And these 6 cards here could be huge here.
So I'm seeing, I think that's the Cresselia, a Zacian, an Energy, and a Kirlia, another level ball. So he's going to be able to get 2 Kirlias out here, which is great for Jake. He's going to be able to dig further into that deck. What he really wants to find is a rare Candy Gardevoir EX right now.
That's
so if
right.
he can dig a little bit deeper with those 2 Kirlias, then utilize that Mysterious Tail ability on the Mew to dig deeper for whatever piece he missed off of those 2 refinements, Jake could be in a really good spot here.
That's
Question
essentially
is,
a 12-card push.
Yeah.
To find either a Ultra Ball or a rare candy.
Yeah.
And that is a lot of cards to see.
And Jake does have enough energy in that discard pile, between the discard pile and his hand, to be able to attack with a Gardevoir EX here, which is going to be a great attacker into Joe's side of the board, because Joe doesn't really have anything that can do much to that Gardevoir EX. And it looks like he does get rare candy off that first refinement. Going to refinement away the Zacian V, get another 2 cards, Battle VIP Pass and Iono, and now he's just got to dig here with the Mysterious Tail. Okay, I see what's going on here. Radiant Greninja was one of those draw 2, so the refinement got him the Battle VIP Pass discarded. And does he hit Ultra Ball? He does not, and we see the whiff from Jake, unable to get the Gardevoir EX, even though he had the rare candy in hand to make that play. Now forced just to level ball for the Kirlia, but Jake making a crucial mistake here, level balling for that Kirlia when what he really needed, I think, was that Manaphy.
Manaphy, I agree. I think that would have been a much safer option here, and even though it's very likely that it's just going to get Sableye next turn, that is preferable to losing.
We just didn't see his hand. He had the Manaphy in hand already. So Jake is fine. Jake is safe. And just going to dig a little bit deeper with those refinements. But no attack coming down here from Jake, unfortunately, which is going to give Joe some time to start digging further into those Sableye plays. We see he's got Sableye and Energy and Mirage Gate in hand. And going to start off the turn with a concealed cards there. And even if he's not able to put together a Sableye play on this turn, he's just going to be able to spit instantly into this Mew again and take another prize. Although he is going to get into a dangerous part of this game, which is when Jake starts to have those big Gardevoirs in play. Not much Joe can do against those, and Joe going down to less prizes means that those Ionos are going to do a lot more against him on Jake's side of the field.
That's right. And with 3 of the cards in his hand right now being VIP Pass, those are not very usable, but
he draws a Chorus off the prizes though there, but I believe Jake already has an Iono in hand, so we're going to see Joe Iono to 4. Despite the fact that Jake has had a slow start to this game, these Ionos are going to start hitting hard against Joe, and I think as long as Jake is able to start piecing together some attackers here, we see that Cresselia in hand, Jake is still going to be in this game.
Cresselia, fantastic attacking option here right now, being able to chase down those benched Comfies and saying, that's all right, I don't really care about the Cramorant being in the active, you can smack into me again if you want. Certainly a very powerful play, and being 2 prizes down is going to definitely need to be relying on some hand disruption to be able to get into this after whiffing the rare candy.
So it looks like we're going to level ball here for a Ralts. I was looking through that deck as Jake was scanning through it, and I wasn't seeing any Ultra Balls. So So the question is, did Jake prize a lot of his Ultra Balls, and is he going to have to rely on this dig of 6 from Iono to just raw draw into that Gardevoir EX? We'll have to see, but potentially a scary position here for Jake. Now, he is going to have extra dig. He's got all these refinements. He can evolve into the Shiny Arcana Gardevoir and start drawing extra cards that way. But Jake really desperately needs to find the EX on this turn, and if he doesn't, I have to imagine he's just going to fall too far behind.
Absolutely, I would agree. I think if you don't find the EX here, I just don't think that there's a way to really claw back.
Just trying to figure out which abilities are being used here. So Jake draws 2. Still no EX from what I can see, but he does have Shiny Arcana to draw an additional 2 cards once he evolves that Kirlia.
I believe he does have energy in hand as well, so should be able to make use of Greninja.
And he still has not played a supporter for turn, so he will be able to Iono. Let's see what Jake chooses to do here first.
I would think about trying to use that Fog Crystal for energy here.
Looks like we're going to see the Shiny Arcana here. He does hit an energy off that Shiny Arcana. Going to attach it to that Kirlia. And now the question is, do we play those Fog Crystals before we Iono? Or do we just send that Iono? And it looks like he's going to choose to play the Fog Crystal here. He still does have attachment for turn, and good thing he didn't send that Iono, because it looked like both Gardevoirs were at the bottom of the deck there.
Right, that would have been a very disappointing push there. I imagine he's probably going to be trying to go for a Cresselia play here. Not sure what else would be that good of an option. I think that if you try to evolve the active into EX, it just seems like it'd be a little bit too risky to have a 2-prize vulnerability in the active there.
Yeah.
And knowing what a lot of the turbo lists are playing, most of them are playing Drapion, and in this situation, I think you just have to assume that a Drapion is a possibility. But we'll see what happens here.
Absolutely. So we have Chef Boy in the chat saying, yo, what's up, Tom and Austin? What is up, Chef Boy? Hope you're doing well tonight.
Absolutely. And yeah, to everyone who's watching, thank you for tuning in tonight. We hope that you've been entertained and have been enjoying watching some of these games here.
So we do see this Iono come down from Jake, and can he hit that Gardevoir EX? He finally hits it. He has those Gardevoirs. Both, I imagine, are going to come into play here. He's going to be able to start attacking into this Cramorant, but choosing to retreat out of that Kirlia, I'm not sure how I feel about that. You had those free energies already on that Kirlia, meaning you won't have to damage it using the Gardevoir EX's ability to attach energy back to it. But choosing to go with this Cresselia, start picking off those Comfies, I think that does make sense as well. Especially if you're worried about Joe playing that Drapion. We know Joe doesn't, but if Jake attacks with that Gardevoir and Joe slaps down a Drapion double Mirage Gate,
right,
that would feel bad. But
that's a huge feels bad when that happens, and yeah, until you know for sure, you got to always consider some of those options.
Yeah. So looks like Joe does have Sableye Psychic Energy in hand, but he's only at 9 in the Lost Zone. He's going to be forced probably to attack with this Cramorant again. But he can at least conceal cards to draw a couple more cards, maybe hit a Colress, maybe hit a few switching outs, just to start being able to use these Comfies again and build up that Lost Zone a little bit further.
Looks like a boss is in hand, considering, yep, bossing up a Kirlia here.
And I think that's the right move. Going to be able to knock out that Kirlia with the Cramorant, go down to 3 prize cards remaining, and at least now this way, before, if he just attacked into that Cresselia, not taking a KO, and that Cresselia can move that damage off a little bit with its Moonglow reverse, and so now he can take out that Kirlia, takes out some of Jake's draw support, and goes down to 3 prize cards remaining. But Joe is going to be in a tough position here if we see Ionos just repeated from Jake turn after turn.
Right. An option that Joe could have tried to do there was to potentially bench that Sableye with the Psychic Energy. You know your opponent is going to be trying to Iono you every turn that they possibly can. You know those cards are going to be sent to the bottom of your deck. Yeah. Sure, yes,
Moonglow reverse could hit that Sableye on the bench, so I understand that risk. But you have to imagine you're going to get Iono'd to 3 here, which is not going to feel good. And he's just going to pick off another Comfy utilizing that Moonglow reverse.
That's exactly what I would do. being able to pick off those comfies, forcing your opponent to utilize recovery mechanics just to get the comfies back, sometimes that can be really tough.
Yeah, and we're starting to see why, a lot of people say that Lost Box is the toughest matchup for this Gardevoir EX deck, but as soon as you get set up as Gardevoir, it might take a couple of turns, you might have to let Lost Box take a couple of prizes, but then you start disrupting their hand and start moving these damage counters around, and you put them in a really tough spot, especially like in this case for Joe, where they haven't gotten to 10 in the Lost Zone yet.
Right.
So Jake here, I imagine we're going to see some more Psychic Energies come down to damage these Pokemon and utilize that Moonglow reverse to take out another Comfey. But it depends on how many Psychic Energy he has in his discard pile right now. Can see a boss on that Greninja, and I think that also makes sense because he's forcing Joe to retreat that Greninja. He saw earlier that Joe was unable to retreat the Cramorant to get into Comfies, and now Joe has a Pokemon who's active that can't even attack. And Jake takes another KO on a Comfey, going down to 4 prize cards remaining. Joe at 3, and we'll see what Joe's able to piece together here. Joe does have Mirage Gate, Water Energy in hand, Psychic Energy in hand, so he can conceal cards to draw a couple more. But the question is, can he hit anything off this concealed cards that allows him to get out of this position? It looks like he's got to switch cards so he can switch into that last remaining Comfey, get himself to 10, and he also has Nest Ball and a Forest Seal Stone, so he could go get a V, use that Forest Seal Stone to go find something like a Colress, and just keep digging through his deck here. So Joe, not in a bad position here, but the scary thing is, if he does take a prize card here, he's just going to get Iono to 2.
Right. Those Ionos, they just build up in their intensity. Looks like there's some discussion.
So it looks like Colress off of that Flower Selecting, and looks like a good amount of energy and a Colress off of that Colress. So maybe some tough decisions here for Joe, but we'll see what he's able to do. He does have that Super Rod and Mirage Gate in hand, so he is going to be able to attack with the Sableye this turn. And I gotta assume, what do you go after with the Sableye here? Do you go after the Ralts and put a few damage counters on the Manaphy, or do you just take out this Cresselia that keeps sniping your bench?
I think at this point, you probably just have to... Well, I suppose you maybe can say, I'm not going to touch the Cresselia anymore. There is a lot of energy that is currently committed on the board right now. And, a Cresselia with 3 energy on it, while being an okay attacker at times, certainly can feel like wasted resources in some cases. But I'm not entirely sure. I mean, sniping only a Ralts here, I'm not sure if that feels all that amazing, or trying to go after the Manaphy, I suppose.
Yeah, a tough decision here for Joe. I don't think there's any reason to go after the Manaphy now. He's got such large attackers in play that the Greninja's attack isn't going to be taking out 2 Pokemon at all.
Right.
If I'm Joe here, I think I have to take out this Cresselia.
Yeah.
It feels bad, but the other thing too to consider here for Joe is, can this Cresselia even utilize Moonglow Reverse again? Because all of those Psychic Energies are on the field. Does Jake have enough in the discard pile to continue doing that Moonglow Reverse? So do you just go after that Ralts, place a couple of damage counters somewhere else, maybe on this Cresselia, so that Cramorant can take a KO on the next turn? Joe, not in a horrible position. We know that he's going to get Iono'd, but he has Cramorant on the field, he's got Sableye on the field, and the thing is, if he can get a second Sableye on the field and just continue to spread damage counters despite getting Iono'd, Jake's going to be in a tough position.
That's definitely true.
He's got the Nest Ball, he's got the Mirage Gate. You have to think you got to use that Nest Ball here first to get that Sableye down. If he has a second Sableye down here, I think that's probably just almost game. But choosing to Mirage Gate to that Comfey, that Psychic Energy that could have gone onto a Sableye, and I don't know. These decisions are potentially going to cost Joe the game here, not having a serious backup attacker. That Cramorant can technically attack after the Sableye, but it's not going to be taking out a Gardevoir EX or a Shining Arcana Gardevoir.
Cramorant is one of those cards that its value as the game continues does just tend to go down quite considerably in most matchups, and unfortunately this matchup is no different.
Yeah. So we'll see what else Joe chooses to do here. He has the Force Seal Stone and Nest Ball in hand, but you have to assume that hand's going away. So we see him retreat that Comfey into the Sableye. Sableye gonna Lost Mine here. We'll see where Joe chooses to place those damage counters. And if you're Joe, you probably just have to go for that Cresselia, get it out of the way.
I think that is ultimately what has to be done, but
Choosing to go after that Manaphy instead, and placing those damage counters on the Gardevoir. I guess I see the relevance of that, but maybe those are better placed on that Ralts, because if that Ralts evolves into an 80 HP Kirlia, it's only 3 more damage counters to place to KO it. I'm not totally sure the reasoning behind placing those on the Shiny Arcana Gardevoir.
the only benefit I can see is you can potentially fight through one more Moonbow Reverse if Sableye gets knocked out, and he can potentially then do 110 damage with the Cramorant that is still on board. So maybe he is attempting to make use of those resources that he's already committed on board as best he can. I don't necessarily hate that, but does he have a gusting option? If it's very possible that Jake could decide just not to be sending that other Gardevoir up.
So we're going to see Jake Rare Candy into that Gardevoir, protecting that low HP Ralts. He has the Iono in hand, and that's what he's going to need. That's what he's going to need to do here, disrupt Joe's hand. Joe already placing that hand out there, probably assuming already that he's going to be Iono'd here.
That would certainly be a safe assumption.
We do see that Iono come down.
Sometimes getting to this point in the game, oftentimes players do like to just pass and not cut your opponent's hand after an Iono, but sometimes at this point in the game, it may be the correct decision.
Yeah, when the decks get a little thin and your hand basically becomes your deck, maybe you start cutting those Ionos. But we do see Jake here retreating out of that Cresselia, going into the Gardevoir EX and just saying, deal with this big 310 HP Pokemon if you can.
Absolutely.
Now, Jake does still have that Gardevoir damage on the bench and the Cresselia. So over the course of two Sableye Lost Mines, 2 turns for Joe, he can take his final 2 prizes on those. And Jake still has 4 prizes to go. So he's going to have to hope that this Iono does put Joe in a weird position.
Alpad coming down. Oh, sorry.
Looks,
not
yeah,
Alpad,
Super Rod
Super
coming
Rod.
down. Looks like shuffling back that Manaphy, a Ralts, and a Kirlia. Choosing to...
Decide between 4 Pokemon there, okay.
Looks like Ralts and Gardevoir and Manaphy.
I'm not sure about that decision. Sometimes it is better just to take only one Pokemon. I'm not sure if he's going to need the extra attackers.
I think this is potentially a mistake here from Jake, putting another low HP Pokemon into play that's easy for Sableye to snipe. But I think he maybe is more worried about this Greninja at this point, given that there's no other Sableye in play, and the Greninja already has an energy on it. But looking at Joe's hand, it looks like, is that a Raihan in hand?
I think it might be, and that could be trouble.
So it looks like Raihan, Manaphy, Lost Vacuum in the hand for Joe. That Raihan will be able to piece together potentially an attack here if he can find a switching out or an energy off of this Comfey. But Joe's going to have to find something good off of this Flower Selecting to be able to piece together a serious attack here.
Right.
You see Mirage Gate, Gallade, and time to get rid of that Gallade, I think, Joe.
I would agree.
Oh,
What? Just thinking about it.
as a player, sometimes you got to be careful putting those Flower Selecting cards into your hand. It can look a little sketchy at times. Obviously, Joe's not doing anything untoward here, but just to keep the play a little bit clean, not have any questions for your opponent when they see those 2 stacks of cards come together there.
Absolutely. In a quick moment, just to read that Gallade, it's has a Revenge Mechanic attack as its first attack for 1 fighting and 1 colorless. I believe it's 20 plus 50 for each prize card that your opponent, or no, I think that you have taken.
I think it's your opponent's.
Oh, is it your opponent's? Okay.
Yeah.
So an interesting card certainly. Is able to one-hit those Arceus after 3 prize cards taken.
Yeah. So I think Joe's going to have to Raihan here, potentially Raihan that water energy in the discard pile to the Greninja. It's prize cards you've taken. The chat is helping us out here. Good to know.
Thank you, Davin Lugs. Yeah.
So we're going to see this Raihan.
Reverse revenge, yeah.
So we're going to see this Raihan come down here. I imagine we're going to see an energy come to Comfey. And then as a retreat option. And then he's going to have to look for something to attack with here. He doesn't have any Psychic Energy in deck. He does have Sableye, and he has the Mirage Gate in hand, but I think we're just going to probably see a Cramorant into this Gardevoir here, which is not ideal for Joe. But the thing is, that will set that Gardevoir down to, what, 180 HP remaining? And if Joe can fill up his board, he could potentially Raikou into that Gardevoir to take the last 2 prizes.
Right.
But no boss's orders left. Maybe 1 boss's orders left for Joe. Not entirely certain. I just had a quick peek at the deck there. Let's see, yeah, it looks like there's 1 boss's orders left.
You could potentially go Raikou here.
Like he's choosing a Super Rod, so Super Rod will get those energies and maybe Sableye back into the deck, and then he can utilize that Mirage Gate that he has in hand. But again, you don't really want to attack with Greninja here. You don't really want to attack with Cramorant here.
Right.
Put in a tough position, and I think earlier in the game, if he had been able to bench more Sableyes, if he had chosen to get more Sableyes out early in the game, he wouldn't be probably locked into this position of not having an attacker on board ready to go.
Sableye and those 2 Psychic Energies get put back into the deck, and Joe is definitely going to be hoping that he sees those here very soon. But that deck size is relatively sizable for this point in the game for Lost Box.
Yeah.
And
getting locked in that active position with that Cramorant for a couple of turns definitely hurt Joe's ability to dig through this deck, get more cards in the Lost Zone, and thin out that deck.
Yeah, and Cresselia certainly showing its value as well.
So we're seeing a retreat into that Cramorant, doing 110 damage with Spit Innocently into this Gardevoir EX. Gardevoir EX will go down to 180 HP remaining, so it can be taken out by one of Joe's Vs if he has that Raikou V, but he's going to have to pair that Raikou V with a Mirage Gate, with a retreat out for the Comfey, with a boss's orders probably, because if Jake's smart here, he's going to retreat out of that damaged Gardevoir. And so, Joe, 2 prize cards left to take, Jake 3 prize cards left to take, so Joe's got a little bit of time, but he's probably going to get Iono'd again here as well.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting to see what happens here. And there is that Palpad that does come down. Did he take 2 Ionos there?
I didn't quite catch that, but I have to assume that's probably the case. Looks like we're going to see a concealed cards here to draw 2 cards. And it looks like Boss's Orders and a Shining Arcana Gardevoir. Boss's Orders could come down and just take out that Comfey and make sure that Joe doesn't get to draw any extra cards, or even the Greninja could be taken out as well. But I think
been exhausted here now. Did not see an Iono.
No Ionos yet. Funny thing is, Jake doesn't know this, but Joe does play a Luminous Energy in his deck, so that Temple of Sinnoh actually might potentially do something in this matchup if he chose to play it down this turn.
I think there's a consideration about attacking with Cresselia again. Yep.
So retreating into that Cresselia, and he is going to be able to take out that Comfey on the bench. And I think this is a smart move here for Jake. Just limit that draw, force that Cramorant to stay in the active position, and Joe's going to have to find a retreat out and a new attacker because that Cramorant's just not going to be doing enough.
Absolutely. Getting rid of that last bit of draw support.
Joe top decks that Forest Seal Stone. He does still have that V-Star power available to him, but no way to find a V here to utilize that Forest Seal Stone.
Yeah, unfortunately, he can't even utilize concealed cards here right now. His only real option is going to be just to smack here.
Yeah, he's just going to have to Spit Innocently into this Cresselia, and that's probably going to seal his fate here. Jake's just going to be able to take 2 prizes in a row and I don't see any way Joe can take multiple prizes on his next turn. Although I suppose he could Sableye, Manaphy, and Cresselia and potentially get there, but with what's in his hand, that's definitely going to be a difficult ask.
Looking unlikely, that is certain.
He does play, I believe. Let's see, does he play any Claras? Looks like he doesn't play any
And
Claras.
Joe just scooped.
Joe just scoops there. Yeah, so no way really to get to that Sableye. Would have top decked to that Luminous Energy that we were talking about. But
much
nothing
help
to
at that
really
point.
attach it to. Yeah, so
I suppose it would have been two cards with Greninja.
Yeah.
I suppose is worth pointing out, but certainly you had to ask just for so much there at
Yeah.
the end, and even when you're able to use Radiant Greninja there for those 2 cards, it's still a lot to ask for.
Definitely a tough position for Lost Box there. The Ionos really hit hard later in the game when you're down to just 3 or 2 prize cards remaining, and that just shows you the power of not only Iono, shows you the power of Cresselia, and shows you the power of the Gardevoir EX deck, because it can go down multiple prizes and be able to come back at the end of the game.
That's
Very
right.
impressive play from Jake there. Well played by Joe. Excited to see these 2 arch nemesis decks face off against each other here in the final round of tonight's League Challenge. So stay tuned. We'll be right back for a winner's interview, and then we'll sign off a little bit after that to let you know about the upcoming events here at the Forge. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back to not the winner's interview here at the League Challenge tonight at the Forge. Turns out that was a tie there. Austin and I didn't really see the timer go off. We didn't see where the best or the 3 turns were happening, but looks like neither player was able to wrap up that game in time plus 3 turns, and ended up being a tie. So both players went 3-1-1, and we can report actually that of the finals there are 4-0 players who ended up IDing and risking it all to see who would be first or second based on opponent's win percentage. Peyton did come out on top. We saw Peyton play earlier against that Lugia deck with his Lost Box deck, so Peyton did end up on top here getting first place, and Thomas playing Chien-Pao did get second here tonight at the League Challenge.
Yes, congratulations, Peyton. You played awesome tonight, and yeah, your win percentage just was able to edge things over, and so congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, thanks for tuning in tonight to the Forge's League Challenge. Don't forget to check out The Forge at theforgemn.com for all your card game, board game, etc. needs. Stop by the shop here in Chaska and play some games, and don't forget that every Tuesday night at 6:30 is Pokemon League, so come on out. All right, we'll see you guys next week here at The Forge.
Take care.